Good evening, everyone. If you choose to do so, please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the invocation. Thank you. Pastor Kathy Northrup from Community Church of the Verdes. Hi.
Thank you. Please bow your heads with me. Almighty God, we give you thanks and praise for all of your mighty works. You are loving, good, and gracious. Thank you for creating us and sustaining us day by day. Thank you for making us in your image to exist in community with other people. We thank you for this town of Fountain Hills. Thank you for the elected officials, the businesses, the churches, the families, and the individuals that make this town the great place that it is. But Lord, we acknowledge that we do not deserve these good gifts. We are not worthy of your favor, for we have sinned against you in thought, word, and deed. We do things that we should not do, and we don't do the things that we should do. We have not loved you with our whole heart, and we have not loved our neighbors as ourselves. We appeal to Jesus Christ, who died for our sins. Forgive us and give us hearts of obedience to your holy scriptures. On this Easter week, we thank you that Jesus rose from the dead and now reigns as King over heaven and earth. Grant that this town would be known as a righteous city, a city that confesses Jesus as Lord, a city of peace and hope, a city with happy and healthy homes, a city that welcomes the stranger, a city that cares for the needy, a city that defends the innocent from evildoers. Lord, thank you for civil government. Those who bear the sword do so as your ministers to be a terror to crime. We pray that our civil servants would acknowledge this calling and perform it faithfully. Be with our judges, attorneys, and law enforcement. Grant that they would never neglect or abuse their authority, but that they would stand firm for truth and justice. Keep them safe from harm as they serve our community. I pray for this council meeting tonight. Give the council members wisdom and guidance as they deliberate on the items before them. May every decision be righteous in your sight, for your benefit and for your glory. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Dickey. Here. Vice Mayor McMahon. Here. Councilmember Fidel. Present. Councilmember Grzybowski.
Present.
Councilmember Kalavianakis.
Here.
Councilmember Toth.
Present.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
Here.
Thank you. I forgot to ask you, were you going to read the statement? Okay, there you go.
Anyone wishing to address the council regarding items listed on the agenda or under call to the public should fill out a request to comment card located in the back of the council chambers and hand it to the town clerk prior to consideration of that item. When your name is called, please approach the podium, speak into the microphone, and state your name for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. It is the policy of the mayor and council to not comment on items brought forth under call to the public. However, staff can be directed to report back to the council at a future date or to schedule items raised for a future council agenda.
Thank you. It's our first meeting with our new, that's coming. I was going to say with our new rules of procedure, so we're kind of struggling through, and also we're welcoming our interim town manager, Rachel, up here, and appreciate all your help, and it's been an exciting 2 days so far. So thank you so much. Our first item, as always, are our reports by mayor, council members, and town manager. Rachel?
I have no update. It's an exciting 2 days.
Thank you.
Well, of course, I've got to go over the different events the past couple weeks. We had the Dark Sky Festival, which was incredible. Such a great turnout. I really enjoyed working that event. So thanks for letting me be a part of it. And then we also had our volunteer reception dinner. I think I have that title correct, but it was absolutely lovely. Shout out to the people who set that up, and just what a wonderful way to thank all of the people. And there's so many of you that volunteer for the town in different capacities. And then lastly, of course, Music Fest was April 1st. And that was really fun too. I enjoyed watching everybody seeming like they had a good time listening to music. And it's been a good couple weeks for Fountain Hills.
Regarding the Dark Sky event, I swear that was the most people I have ever seen at that event. It was really very exciting. So many people from out of town. We had two league state legislative update calls. One of the things I want to make sure and mention, and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, that the SB 1117 may have disappeared, but it's back in 3 different bills. And these bills include things like preemption of existing zoning restrictions and parking requirements. And I know we'll talk about it a little bit more later. I had a GPEC board meeting and, of course, the Hall of Fame dinner where there were 8 really worthy inductees this year. The volunteer reception was definitely one of the best we've had yet. Kudos to Community Services and Kim Wickland. And then on Friday, I was invited to attend the Arizona Bicycling Summit, which was my first, and that was really kind of neat. Thank you.
Mayor, I was out of town for the last week and a half, so I missed a lot of these events, but I did make it to the Music Fest, and I have to say that it was packed. So very well received. A lot of people, too, that I talked to were from out of town. So that was a big attraction for our town. And I did hear about the volunteer reception. I'm sorry I missed that, but I heard it was spectacular. So again, kudos, well done.
Good evening, everybody. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend Morningstar Celebration, where within their company there's 20 different national Morningstar facilities, and the one in Fountain Hills happened to win the annual Community Service Award. So it was really great to be able to celebrate with them because they are a fantastic memory care center. And on that note, I would like to announce that Fountain Hills has become a dementia-friendly town. We are nationally recognized right now. They accepted our application, and it's really, really great to have that designation because it just opens up a whole breadth of additional information, education, services, and knowledge for our community and the people who have dementia and also their caretakers. So it is really an honor to have that designation. Also, I attended the ribbon cutting for Lizard Pools. They have been in business in town for about 10 years. They are really happy here, and it was a great celebration to celebrate that. Also, I volunteered at the Dark Sky Festival, and that was an exceptional event. And like Sharon said, it was very crowded. Everybody had a great time. It just is a fantastic showing of our community and how they come together and celebrate our Dark Sky designation. Also, the volunteer reception was exceptional as well. Thank you to Rachel and her staff for putting on such a great dinner honoring all of our volunteers. And the movie and music chorus event on Sunday was fantastic, very well attended. And today I attended MAG Economic Council. We were updated on the bioscience that industry that is in our Phoenix community and how it's growing, and also updated on Proposition 400. And there are 2 people speaking tonight from MAG that are going to address that further. And also, we are having a CARES Forum event on April 20th at the Community Center at 6:30. It's free. We hope everybody attends. It is about social media and the consequences of it to our teens and our families, et cetera. And the local drug coalition has their annual essay contest, and the 3 winners of that contest are going to be sharing their fantastic essays. So I hope everybody can attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting in person and Cox Channel 11 live streaming and on YouTube. We appreciate your participation. This is great to see so many people engaged in their community. I was also at the March 30th volunteer reception. It was just a wonderful event honoring our volunteers for the year. I happen to actually have the program here. The 2022 Outstanding Volunteers for Crisis Response Team was Vereen Byrne, Home Delivered Meals, Gary and Bonnie Spettel, Give a Lift, Larry Hesse, Sonoran Conservancy, Judy Draganowitz. Community Involvement, Rory Wilson. Development Services, Kathy De La Feria. Community Services, Patty Heaston. And the 2022 Volunteer of the Year was a gentleman named Bill Craig, an incredible individual. It was also, I was honored because during the ceremony, they did give a mention of myself and Mr. Friedel, Councilman Friedel. They said not only do we serve the town on our town council, but we also are a part of the home delivered meals program. So we do volunteer for our community, and they recognize us, and that was very nice because everybody here on the dais does a lot of volunteer work. We do a lot of things nobody knows about, and it was nice to get just a small recognition. So that was very appreciated. I played the Phoenix Heart Walk with my saxophone. I'll give you a saxophone update. With the Desert Valley Winds Band, the Phoenix Heart Walk supports the American Heart Association. This year, our goal was to raise $650,000 to improve and extend lives of the millions born with heart defects through education, advocacy, and research. Their saying is, we can't do it without you, very appropriately put. We had over 10,000 walkers participated, and everybody enjoyed the event greatly. And we'd raised a lot of money for that charity, so that's really good. Also, I attended the Leadership Academy. We had a meeting. I am an alumni of the Leadership Academy. I was in that program last year. And so the Leadership Academy is an entryway of being involved in town government through potential community leaders. They can be a part of boards, commissions, and other important positions. We educate and inform our town's future leaders, and hopefully they will take that information and they will join us on the town council or on our various commissions and boards. We're currently accepting applications for this year's class, so if you know anybody or if you yourself would like to go to the Leadership Academy, please email me at bkalvinakis@fountainhillsaz.gov or go to ilovefountainhills.org for more information. Lastly, I attended a lawyers' luncheon in Scottsdale where the keynote speaker was Arizona Supreme Court Justice Bill Montgomery. Justice Montgomery is a brilliant jurist and a constitutional scholar. He spoke of originalism, substantive due process, and the concept of a living constitution versus originalism, which is following the plain meaning of the Constitution. It was a fascinating lunch. I really enjoyed it. I did earn a continuing legal credit for going to that event. But since my workload has increased so much on December 6th, I don't anticipate going back into practice of law. Again, just to tie it up, I did attend the Dark Sky Festival. It was absolutely Fountain Hills at its finest. It was just people getting along. There were animal displays, there were speakers, there were food trucks. It was just Fountain Hills, wasn't it? It was amazing. So I'm so proud to live in this community. Also, I'm on the Fountain Hills Cares, and we are doing our meeting that the Vice Mayor mentioned on the 20th, and I hope you can all stop by. And that's about all. I have more, but we'll say that for next time. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I'm just going to echo the other comments and all the tremendous events that the town has put on, the volunteers that have made this town special.
Thank you. Everything was so much fun this past couple weeks. I was happy to welcome the guests to the Dark Sky, and also they had the art contest, so that was fun to see the kids and all the parents there. Scottsdale Councilwoman Solange Whitehead and I were able to go to the Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relations International State of the State, Governor Hobbs, and a panel from Mexico, Germany, and Israel, where Arizona currently has trade offices, and they're going to open one in Taiwan and in South Korea. They said it was the largest gathering of diplomats, elected officials, and internationally minded Arizona community members to date, with close to 600 attendees. So our reach is far. MAG Regional Council, we had that, and the Fountain Hills Community Foundation gave out their grant awards reception. That was a nice event. The volunteer, of course, Kimberly Wickland and the whole staff, I mean, it was just looked so gorgeous in there, so thank you for that. The Hall of Fame was a wonderful event. I want to mention at this time that one of the awardees, Phil Yin, that many of you probably know, passed away like pretty much a day before. So it was very touching, and we want to offer his family condolences. And they'll be having a service here at the community center on the 14th. I was honored to be appointed to the Executive Committee of the League of Cities and Towns at their meeting on March 31st. I wanted to thank that nominating committee and the entire Executive Committee for that vote of confidence and the opportunity to represent Fountain Hills in that statewide municipal organization. And last week was First Responders Wellness Week, so I won't read the proclamation now, but I did put it online, and it's just a way of reminding everyone that the risks that first responders, they don't stop at the end of the day. There's health issues and sleep issues and other things like that, so please keep them in mind. And thank you, Vice Mayor, for your work on the dementia-friendly part too, because, you know, we do these announcements, but there's always a lot of work behind them, so I really appreciate that. You bet. So one of the things that's different now is we're going to do presentations, which are going to be basically guests or staff. So we're going to start tonight's presentations with an overview from MAG, and I'm going to ask our town manager to take it from there.
Great, thanks, Mayor. Tonight we do have our managing director, Ed Zucker, and Amy St. Peter, the Deputy Executive Director of Maricopa Association of Governments. They're going to give us an update on a number of their programs.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. And I didn't realize that yesterday when I had a meeting with your town manager, that was her first day, but I will vouch that she was working hard yesterday for sure. So it's good to be here with you. My name is Ed Zucker. I am the incoming executive director for the Maricopa Association of Governments, known as MAG. Our executive director, Eric Anderson, is retiring, and so the council has hired me to take over and to do that. And so it's a privilege to be here with you this evening. Just a note, personal note, I have my college roommate from too many years ago to say. He and his family have just decided to move to Fountain Hills. And so in the next week or so, they're going to be moving into your great town. And I think it speaks well of Fountain Hills. They could have chosen anywhere to live in the Phoenix metro region. They've never lived here before. They like to visit here, and in all their searching and looking for what worked for their family, Fountain Hills was the place. So you're doing something really well here. Someone I respect a great deal has chosen your community, so congratulations to you for what you've done to make this place really a beautiful, welcoming, and inviting town for people to move to. With me this evening is our Deputy Executive Director, Amy St. Peter. She'll be talking in just a minute. Has a great deal of experience with Maricopa Association of Governments, and you'll see that in her part of her presentation. And also, especially with us, is a Fountain Hills resident and also a MAG staffer, Audra Kester-Thomas, who is one of our leading transportation experts at MAG. So Fountain Hills, you got some folks working here for us. My background is I've been working in local government in Arizona for 30 years. And as I said, this is my 4th week on the job with MAG. So it's a privilege to be here with you today, and this is my first time to do this with a council. So I'm happy to be here for this. Let's see. Figure this out. Just use this. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So Maricopa Association of Governments, known as MAG, is really the agencies itself. Now, it just so happens on this slide that Fountain Hills is dead center. I think that's because of alphabetically how it worked on that, but there you see, you're right there in the dead center of this thing. So congratulations. But just by way of background, MAG is really 2 things. It is a council of governments, which is all the governments in the Maricopa planning region, which is 27 cities and towns, 3 Indian nations, native nations, and 2 counties, Maricopa and Pinal, make up MAG, plus ADOT, make up MAG membership. So it is a council whereby the governments come together to work on what I call problems without borders, things like transportation, air quality, human services, and those sorts of things. MAG is also a metropolitan planning organization, which is a legal construct, primarily designed to deal with transportation funding, federal transportation funding and planning. It also goes into air quality and environmental quality. So MAG is doing both of those things with the agencies. It's a very cooperative organization that really has a positive impact on the region. This is the scope of the area. You can see it says Maricopa County as well as parts of Pinal County in that outline. The boundary covers all of Maricopa and parts of Pinal. It represents 2/3 of the state's population, and 70% of the sales tax collected in Arizona happens in this region. And if this region geographically were a state, it's a little bit bigger than the state of Massachusetts. And if it were population a state, it would be the 25th largest state by population. So just the scale of our region is pretty remarkable. And MAG is the place where those governments come together to make those sorts of decisions. In these core emphasis areas, as a metropolitan planning agency, we really focus on the safe and smart travel component, as well as the environment and sustainability. And improving quality of life is also a key part of the MAG emphasis. And that all leads to, as Vice Mayor McMahon noted in her attendance, with the economy and growth. They really all feed together into a whole for the region. And above it all, we work to make MAG an efficient and effective operating agency. In transportation, that's one of the things that is a primary issue right now, as we're working on the transportation plan for the MAG region in Maricopa County. This is, has to do with a 1/2-cent sales tax that funds transportation in Maricopa County. And so MAG serves as the planning agency for that, and Audra is one of our key planners in that effort. It's really a 40-year legacy. In 1985, just a little bit before your town was incorporated, there was an election for transportation. That was a 20-year tax that was renewed in 2004, 2005, called Prop 400, and that was a 20-year, and so here we are now in the 2020s, and we're coming to the end of that cycle and looking forward to what's next in transportation. If you just to give everybody a little context, before the first tax period of 20 years, in 1986, this was the freeway system in our region. So this is just about the time Fountain Hills was being incorporated. There was I-17, a discontinuous I-10, and the US 60 going out barely into East Mesa. By the time the first 20 years was concluded with the sales tax, this is the region's transportation network. As you can see, the loops are being built to 51. In this past 20 years that we're now 18 years into, the system has grown in this way, as completing the freeway systems, including light rail, and not shown on here is a significant regional bus transportation network, of which Fountain Hills has one of the express buses. The federal funds come through the Maricopa Association of Governments by federal law. It's the place where they get programmed, where cities participate in that programming. In some cases, there are grants which cities compete for. In other cases, it's formula-driven. And so you see that we work on all those things in cooperation with ADOT and with Valley Metro RPTA. As for you and Fountain Hills, in terms of transportation, these are some of the projects that came to Fountain Hills as part of the MAG region from the last 20 years of the sales tax. There was a design of Shea Boulevard, as you can see, from Palisades to Fountain Hills, and you're going to see that's going to be important because it's going to continue in the proposed next tax extension. Work on Shea Boulevard technology segment, and then Palisades to technology. Also, the Route 515 Express bus is funded by that, and there are several other school safety projects, air quality projects that have come to the town as well from that period. As in the regionally supported, or the projects that are in the proposed extension of the Proposition 400 sales tax, which is currently at the legislature, primarily in the arterial street section, the reconstruction of Palisades Boulevard at $17 million. There's about $7 million for Saguaro Boulevard reconstruction, and then widening of Shea at about $12.5 million. So there are resources coming to your town for transportation as a result of the countywide sales tax, and this is a proposal should and when the legislature extends that sales tax authorization to go to the voters of Maricopa County, that's the street transportation component. The buses are also part of that. So that's an overview of the transportation end of MAG and what we do. I'd like to turn it over now to Deputy Director Amy St. Peter, who will talk to you about another important initiative of MAG, which has to do with called Pathways Home. Amy?
Thank you very much, Ed, Mayor, and members of the Town Council. It's a pleasure to be with you here tonight. Thank you very much for inviting us. I think I was presenting to you last in November of 2021, so it's been a bit of time, and we're very eager to be able to share this update with you today. So MAG has staffed and has been engaged in homelessness since 1999. But back in 2020, we were asked to help strengthen the regional response to homelessness. We've been doing so through very much a data-driven method that relies extensively on research and community engagement and member agency involvement. And so being able to work with you, it's critical for us to understand how homelessness manifests in local communities in order to develop a responsive and relevant regional plan. So I want to thank you for all of your support over these past few years, and I'm thankful for your partnership and look forward to continuing to work with you. So as I said, these efforts are very much data-driven. We derive that data from three main sources. One of those is by analyzing what's working well nationally. There's a lot of really good efforts going on, and a lot of communities are demonstrating extremely good progress in addressing and reducing homelessness. So we want to learn from what's going on really well nationally. The two other areas are much more locally driven. And so the second source of data is community engagement. As we were developing Pathways Home, we intersected and engaged with more than 1,500 people. 1,500 people representing very different walks of life, from the faith community, the business community, nonprofit agencies, as well as local and tribal governments. And their feedback was instrumental. The third source then is that member agency involvement. We met one-on-one with the mayors and with the managers from nearly every single one of our member agencies. And those conversations were critical because homelessness manifests very differently in different communities. In some communities, it's a much smaller scale. It's also very personal. I spoke with one town manager who could name the person who was experiencing homelessness in his area, and they had grown up together and they were neighborhood friends. And in other communities, massive scale, very complex issue. So it's critical because homelessness manifests differently in different communities. It's imperative then that the solutions are custom tailored to each community. And so being able to hear from you directly was really important to us because then we could provide entrance ramps to this regional plan that were appropriate for each of those member agencies in our community. And Pathways Home represents really the first time that we've been able to rally together as local and tribal governments to really strengthen the regional response. And it takes every community working towards this goal in a way that aligns with their priorities, their preferences, and their character as a community. So as a result of all of that data analysis and engagement, we were able to have 14 different strategies adopted for the region. And then just after I last saw you back in November of 2021, our Regional Council unanimously approved Pathways Home, our Regional Homelessness Action Plan for local and tribal governments. So we've been implementing the plan for just over a year now. This is a 5-year plan, and so we're eager to share some of this progress with you tonight. So we've made a lot of progress over the past year, but I just want to highlight a few areas for you right now. There are 3 main action steps in Pathways Home. One is coordinating regionally. How can we work together better? How can we work together smarter to achieve better, tangible results? With all of this, we're wanting to drive towards meaningful, measurable outcomes. And so one of those is coordinating together regionally. The second one is increasing housing options. It's very beneficial to have a diverse housing portfolio throughout the region, and we can't really address homelessness fully without addressing housing. And so we've been able to add a number of housing units, both temporary housing units as well as permanent housing solutions for people right here in our communities. We've also been able to work with diverse partners, people from the faith community, education, business, and really spanning a number of different sectors, including the criminal justice system. And with all of that, we've been able to develop toolkits, and we were able to develop those with support that we receive from all of our member agencies and from subject matter experts throughout the region. These are available to you, and we hope that you'll avail yourselves of these solutions and these options. Would like to highlight one particular piece of our progress, and this is one in which Fountain Hills has been very active as a supporter, and we thank you for that engagement. As we were developing Pathways Home and realizing even more concretely the strong connection between housing and homelessness, we realized that there's a need to increase acceptance of affordable housing throughout the region. And it's hard to have a conversation about something when even the term affordable housing carries with it a certain amount of baggage that sometimes stops conversations before they can even start. And so we've been researching this extensively. We've been working with the public information officers from our member agencies. We've been working with our local jurisdiction committee, and thank you very much to Vice Mayor McMahon and to Rachel for helping to serve on that committee. Your input has been critical. Particularly because we wanted a campaign, a regional campaign, that would resonate with all of our communities. Understanding, again, that there are such different perspectives around housing, around homelessness. So we needed a campaign that would be very inclusive and also very positive. And so we're able to develop this campaign on the basis of the research, the engagement, and with feedback that we've received from our MAG Management Committee, as well as from our MAG Regional Council. So we just presented the campaign to our Regional Council, and we're getting ready to launch this within the month. We do have a website. The name of that is Home is Where It All Starts. And so the website is homeiswhereitallstarts.org. If you use that QR code, you can go directly to our campaign website. We have developed a toolkit that you can use that includes different kinds of samples. So sample digital ads, for example, sample web copy that you can put online. And we invite you because while this is a regional campaign, we're hoping that our local partners will really support this as well, and that you'll be able to reach out to your constituents, to your residents, to be able to talk about this topic. And we're providing some language that we've tested, and it's been proven to help open those conversations in a more positive and constructive way. So instead, referring to affordable rents and mortgages, homes within reach, homes that meet our needs, and being able to increase acceptance of affordable rents and mortgages in each of our communities in ways that really fit the nature of that community. Because again, this will be different in every community, but we need to be able to talk about it as a region. We want to be good stewards of the funding that's been contributed to this campaign, and thank you very much for your contribution of $10,000. We're also able to raise funds from the City of Avondale, the Town of Paradise Valley, and the Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust. We've raised a total of $105,000 to support those regional media buys, but we wanted to further that investment. And so we're able to engage in a partnership with Cox Communications, and we will at least double the investment that we're making on behalf of the region. So we're contributing in total, actually statewide, because this was developed in partnership with Home Matters to Arizona. We're going to pay Cox $150,000. They will at least double that to provide $300,000 worth of media buys and product and creative collateral that all of our local member agencies can use. So really excited about that. It's a good investment and one that will be used to reach different stakeholders statewide. These are some of the resources that we've developed to address homelessness. All of these are free and available to you 24/7. Please do make sure that you're leveraging these. These are available on the MAG website right now. We do have a homelessness assets and needs data for unified planning, or hand up tool. This is an interactive tool that's available to you online so that you can see both the demand and the supply. So in terms of the demand, you can see where are people experiencing homelessness right now, and then the supply, what are the services that we can use to address their homelessness and to help them stabilize and be able to give back to the community in a really positive way. And so if you're interested in that, please do let us know. We'd love to provide that access to you. The rest of the materials are all open to the public and available right now on the MAG website. And we'll have different ongoing training sessions and different materials that we'll be adding to the website as this work continues to unfold. And we'll continue to work with the local jurisdiction committee to receive input and also to share information. And that two-way dialogue is critical. These are the next steps that we're looking at then. We have just over 1 year completed in our 5-year plan. We have 4 more years to go, and I imagine the work will extend beyond that. And so these are the next steps. We are updating our housing targets now on a quarterly basis. We were doing that at first annually, but we realized the situation is just too dynamic to be able to just update those numbers. And the housing targets are what will it take to reduce homelessness right now by 25%. And so we've been able to add a lot of housing units. You saw it was over, I think, 2,400 housing units just within the first year of Pathways Home, which is fantastic, and we need to celebrate that progress. We need to keep 2 things in mind. One, we need a lot more housing options. that target was reached, but that's just reducing homelessness by 25%. We still have 75% to go. The other thing to keep in mind is that second bullet point, half of the temporary housing beds that we have right now are funded with COVID dollars. That's good because we're able to make those beds available during a really critical time during the pandemic, but it's a challenge because we need to find an ongoing operational funding source for those temporary housing beds. So we are proactively working with funders right now, a variety of funders, both public, private, and those local foundations to be able to develop a strong strategy for keeping those beds open and for making them even more effective. We want to be able to learn from our experiences and then to be able to apply those lessons learned moving into the future. We will be launching Home is Where It All Starts. We hope that you'll join us in spreading the word about this campaign. And again, it's about starting conversations. It's about reshaping the narrative so that we can talk really constructively and meaningfully about those affordable rents and mortgages and what it takes to help everyone to be able to acquire an affordable rent or mortgage and to sustain that on their own long term. We want to thank you as well for all of your support with the point-in-time count that was conducted on the last Tuesday in January. This is a federally required activity in order to receive the federal funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Thank you for your participation in that count. And we'll have the results to you in April, and we'll be excited to be able to share those results with you and then to be able to plan what we need to do moving forward. We know that you have a packed agenda tonight, and we're thankful for the time that you've given us. I would like to pause right now and see if you have any questions, comments, or feedback. And please know that you can always reach us after this meeting and engage with us at any time. Thank you very much, Madam
Thank
Mayor
you.
and the council.
Any questions, comments? No?
Thank you for all that you do. We really appreciate it. You really have a large impact, and it's really making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I do have a couple things. One, I want to, obviously you probably are aware now that we just heard that Maricopa County was the fastest growing county, and not just growing, but the delta between people leaving and coming is not much. So we're definitely growing, and it kind of makes it more important to talk about planning. And I know that that's something that can be a frustrating concept because, you know, you're looking at a road or you're looking at an empty lot, and you're thinking, well, why do we need that? Nothing's happening. And you also said data-driven, and that's probably one of the greatest things that MAG does in so many ways. You have those interactive maps and just so many ways for people to get the information that they need. But modeling and planning is so hugely important, and you saw the way that even just the highways and the changes that have been here since I've lived in Arizona. I also wanted to mention something that the Vice Mayor saw an article, and now I think I just got it from MAG, but it was about semiconductor, and I didn't know if you had a chance to take a look at it, but that the kind of the threat to this huge project if we don't get our Prop 400 continued. So I don't know if you were able to address that. And then one last thing, we had an economic development summit here, and I think we had like 8 tables, and the idea of affordable housing came up along with the reluctance to say it. So I think that's what we're facing just generally in the region, and we appreciate all of your efforts on that. But just a little Prop 400, I know you don't want to get into all the legislation and stuff, but there is a bill that purports to have some of our Prop 400 items on it, but it also has other items on it that forced us to oppose it. And also a little bit of the background on how Prop 400 came to be, how it was unanimously passed by all the mayors, and what happened and why we're where we're at right now. Thanks.
Sure, Mayor, just real briefly. So yes, the Wall Street Journal today did have an article about the region, about the Maricopa County region, and the growth and the impacts of transportation and that growth, and really talking about the importance of the continuation of the existing sales tax for transportation 20 more years in the future. It expires at the end of 2025. And as you stated, the MAG planning process has gone on for about 4 years, 4 years of Audra's life, and the staff's life into that, but it's a labor of love because it's really bringing people together to find out what is needed in the region for transportation, and within the constraints of the existing sales tax. So there was a commitment not to raise the sales tax, but to continue that half cent that we all pay in Maricopa County for transportation. What do we need, and what could we afford in that? The plan that came out of the region, it was both the Council of Governments, those 32 member agencies that I said, the elected members of that group approved it, and then something called a Transportation Policy Committee, which was established by the legislature in 2004. It includes MAG members and private sector business leaders who are appointed by the Speaker and the President of the Senate. They also unanimously approved that plan going forward to the legislature. It went last year, vetoed by the governor, and so we had to come back this year for an effort to get that extended, because the legislature has to authorize us to put it to the ballot. So we're currently working through the legislative process, which is a whole new experience for me. But there are currently 2 bills that are in the House of Representatives that are aiming to put something on the ballot. As you noted, neither one of those fully reflects the plan that was put forward by the MAG members and by the Transportation Policy Committee. So we're working through the questions about that and the issues there to try and resolve them with members of the House and members of the Senate, so that we can get a bill successfully through that reflects the will of the regional planning group of the TPC, and brings forward what we think is a plan that will advance transportation. And to circle back to the Wall Street Journal, by advancing transportation, we continue the growth of the region in terms of air quality, but also the connectivity that things like the TSMC and Intel and other myriad numbers of businesses need to get people and products to and from their factories or whatever. So that sort of wraps it all into one thing. But I would encourage folks to take a look at the Wall Street Journal article today.
I appreciate that. You mentioned air quality, and whether you're mad about the requirements or you love them, they're there. So without having the transit and the public transportation parts of Prop 400, we are threatening these businesses. We're threatening really the successful future of Maricopa County. And so for another day, we can fight on whether we think we agree with the guidelines, but these guidelines are there now, and we're right on the edge. And so I appreciate all the work that you've done, and Audra, our own homegrown expert there, but seriously, so much is behind all this. Does anybody have anything to add after hearing the other information? No? All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Our next presentation is going to be by our Captain Kratzer. You don't have to say anything, Rachel. Welcome, Captain.
Hi, good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. Just going to briefly go over a couple of incidents that we've had in the last month since the last update. Probably some of the incidents are already known to some of the members of the public if you read the Fountain Hills Times or some of the social media posts that have gone out. But I wanted to talk about an armed robbery that we had at the Fry's grocery store on Shea. It occurred on a Monday night, March 27th, and it occurred about 9:21 p.m. And the investigation is still ongoing. Our our property crimes detectives are still actively working the case and working any potential leads. So there is some information that I may not be able to provide if there are questions, but I'll do what I can or present the information I can, and then if there are any follow-up questions, I'll answer them if I'm able to. But basically, summary of the incident was a male subject had gone into the store and went into the bathroom and remained in the bathroom until after the store closed. Once the store closed and all the customers were out and all the employees, with the exception of the manager, was present, the suspect exited the bathroom and took the manager at gunpoint and had him open the safe in the office. The suspect was able to get away with still being determined, but anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 in cash from the safe. There was some video surveillance from the store, obviously, but the subject had a hoodie on, face mask on, and gloves on the entire time, so there was no real good video of his face or description of the subject. The subject that the description the manager was able to provide was probably the most helpful, that it appeared to be a white male subject, and that was pretty much the extent of the description. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses and the fries from the parking lot doesn't even show a vehicle in the parking lot. There's an oddly placed vehicle that's kind of far out. There's no good descriptors of the vehicle. You can't even tell the make and model of that vehicle, but it looks like that may have been the vehicle that the suspect showed up in. So currently, the detectives are working the case. Limited evidence that was left on scene in terms of fingerprints or things of that nature, especially with the items the suspect was wearing. But our detectives are working with other local law enforcement agencies in the state of Arizona and with Fry's Loss Prevention to see if there, could it have been an ex-employee who knew this store? Could it have been, have they had any other armed robberies or burglaries at their stores of similar nature, or any other businesses in the state? And they have a couple of small things like that they're following up on, that there were some similarities in at least another case out of Tucson. So they're actively working that. And that's pretty much the extent of updates that I have on the case or that I can provide. Obviously, if there's any questions by the council, feel free to ask them, but just understand the information we have at this point is kind of limited, or some of it is protected just so that it doesn't jeopardize the investigation. And I'll just move on to the next thing I wanted to talk about, and unless someone had questions in the meantime. We've had a string of vehicle burglaries over the last 3 weeks. It was a period of about 2 weeks where we had 9 incidents of reported vehicle burglaries. And in those 9 incidents, there were 11 vehicles that were entered and items either rummaged through or stolen. And all of those vehicles, all 11 of them, most of them were either admitted to be unlocked or presumed to be unlocked. There was no forced entry on any of them, no broken glass, doors left open, glove boxes left open with documents and paperwork rummaged through. Unfortunately, there were 2 stolen firearms in those 9 vehicles. There was cash that was taken out of those 9 vehicles, I think a total of probably about $200 in cash. Credit cards were stolen. The best lead we have is one of the victims had their purse, 2 purses stolen out of the vehicle, and it looked like somebody was probably watching them. They parked at a local business, walked away from the vehicle for 30 minutes, didn't lock the car, left 2 purses in the car. Both of those purses were stolen in that 30-minute time frame. One of the victims was able to determine that their credit card was attempted to be used at the Four Sons in town. So they went there trying to see if there were any contents left, or maybe the suspect was still there. They were able to find some of the remnants of the contents of the purse in the trash can at one of the gas pumps. So we do have some video surveillance from that being discarded. The victims were able to, a couple days later, someone reached out to them on Facebook saying that they had located a wallet with their information on Saguaro. So it looked like maybe someone had discarded it. Obviously, their car keys had been taken also out of the purse, so the car keys were found with the wallets on the side of the road as well. So, but what we found, when we have rash of burglaries like that, so this happened over a 2-week period, 9 incidents with 11 vehicles. One of those happened on the Sunday, March 19th. 3 of them happened on Friday, the 24th of March. 4 of them on Monday, the 27th of March, and then 1 more on Wednesday, the 29th of March. Most of them, like the 3 that happened on the one day and the 4 on the next day, were all within a very close proximity of each other. The one that happened on Sunday was a little off the beaten path. It wasn't in the same vicinity as the other, so it's unsure if it was same suspect, same people or not. But what we're definitely seeing on this, and we're working with the PIO, Bo, with the town, and with Bob Burns with Fountain Hills Times, is just continuing to try to get the message out there to lock your vehicles. don't leave property inside the vehicle. I think an important note was one of the incidents had surveillance footage, and one of the victims had one vehicle that was entered and then another vehicle in their driveway wasn't entered into. And the video shows the suspect trying the door on one of the cars. It was locked. He then shines the flashlight in the car to see if there was anything of value. Doesn't see anything, so moves along to the car next door to it, which was unlocked, and then they rummage through that and take property out of that. So most of the time what we're seeing when we do see these is the suspects are just looking for easy access, going car to car, driveway to driveway, checking doors, seeing if the cars are unlocked, and if so, then they'll rummage through it. But if they do look inside the vehicle with a flashlight and they see something of value, laptop, purse, something like that, they'll have the propensity to break the window and get that property. And a lot of these crimes are happening overnight, so the victim knew they left their car parked and intact by 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then when they come out for work the next morning, anywhere from 5 to 6 a.m., car's been rummaged through. So the ones that they had on video were about 2 in the morning. And one of the suspects, just for a note for people, if they see anything, 2 in the morning, it's not illegal to be walking around at 2 in the morning. It might be a little odd. But the suspect had on a traffic vest, a reflective traffic vest, which a little odd because it kind of draws attention to him. But they did have that on. So again, we are asking for people to be aware, lock your vehicle. If you see something that seems odd, call us. We'll check it out. It's not illegal, but we could definitely check on someone walking around the neighborhood at 2 in the morning. And so we've activated our Squad 5 deputies to work overnights during these times, trying to deter or hopefully catch suspects in the act. And then we're also just working again with the newspaper and local Facebook and social media just to get the word out. So that's really all I have for this month's update. I was going to talk, I think I'll save it for the next update just for the sake of time, about a co-responder program we're having with mental health providers. But I'll speak to that on the next one that I do. If there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer them.
We have to be such a trusting community. We have to be better and more vigilant with our property and our cars, and especially our firearms and vehicles. So we can't be that way anymore, apparently. This is shocking information.
Yes, Councilmember Friedel, I do agree with that. I think we have a community of people who are definitely very trusting and probably for a long time have never had to worry about their vehicles being entered into overnight or broken into. So I think what we're starting to see is, we get these trends where we'll see a spike in vehicle burglaries for a week or 2 week period or a weekend even, and then it kind of lays low for a while and then someone will do it again. So it is just being, it's a different time. It's hard to be trusting. We're just encouraging people to lock their cars, not leave property in them. Maybe you've done it before, but especially firearms, once those are stolen, if you have the serial number, we can enter them into OIC. And most people have that information, but again, putting just an additional stolen firearm on the street is never a good thing, so.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, I'm with Councilman Friedel. This is very disturbing, very shocking for me as a community that's known for its safety. I've told this before in this forum that if you see a crime or you've been a victim of a crime, make sure you report it to Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. For some reason, they keep sending me their door videos and their ring videos, and I've seen the guy with the vest going in the car, and it's very brazen. It's shocking. I think it's official. We do have an uptick in crime. You mentioned that you assigned the Squad 5 for the evenings. Are they walking? Are they doing side streets? Are they in marked vehicles? Could you just flesh it out a little bit for me?
They do a little bit of all that. They'll do added patrols just for the added visibility in the marked patrol cars, but they're also using the bikes to do bicycle patrols, which are a little bit more covert. And just a lot of times when people are in a neighborhood, especially if criminals are going 2 in the morning, you can hear a car coming here in Fountain Hills a couple blocks away. So we're having them on bicycles quite a bit too in the early morning hours, late night hours as well to do that. And then foot patrol beats, I mean, it's a big area to cover, especially just with, it's not to one certain neighborhood, it's kind of spread out. So bikes and patrol vehicles are the tactics we're employing.
Yeah, I'm glad you're reaching out to the Fountain Hills Times. And this does seem to be like a communications problem with our residents. You have to implore the residents of Fountain Hills, don't leave things in your car, and particularly things like firearms and purses and things that are just obviously easy prey for people that are out there looking for an easy mark. And so I would implore people to do that. I've not taken your advice. I'd leave my car doors unlocked, and I'd make sure I don't leave anything in there, because I've been a victim where I come home and it's the window's broken and there's nothing in there to steal. But anyway, but thank you for what you're doing and for letting us know what's going on.
Thank you, Councilmember Kalavianakis. The only other thing I wanted to add to that, which your comment brought that to the forefront, was I'm certain there's probably a number of people who've had their vehicle rummaged through, but maybe nothing stolen, or maybe even had some things stolen, and they don't report it, tend to. So, I mean, obviously they have the right not to if they don't want to. I don't know if they feel like they're bothering us. We've had people say, well, I don't want to bother you, nothing was taken. But we just encourage people to report it. It's a quick report on our end. It helps us with our stats and understanding where those crimes are occurring or where the suspects are hitting, so we can track that and deploy our deputies where we need to. So I would encourage people to at least just make the phone call. We can take a report. You don't even have to be listed as a victim. We can just document the fact that in that area, at that address, there was a vehicle that had been broken into.
Yeah, that's a very salient point, and thanks for bringing it up, because crime is all about statistics and where the crime's occurring, and you guys have to have that information so you can make the best use of the Squad 5 and the deputies, make sure they're in the right places. So that's a very good point. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Captain, and thank you also for bringing that back up about reporting it. I know 3 years ago someone went in one of the cars and made a tiny bit of damage, but nothing of note, nothing stolen. And frankly, I didn't report it. And I probably should have, because maybe there is some sort of pattern that would have been very helpful. So that's a great encouragement. I'm also curious, were some of these break-ins in parking lots, it sounds like, also, not just homes?
There was only one.
Okay.
The rest of them were all at home driveways.
Okay.
One was off of Saguaro and Panorama at a local business there at 9:30 at night. That was the two ladies who left the purses.
That's what that sounded like, yeah. And my only thought is, I don't know if this is something council direction. I don't know if we have ability to have more deputies patrol neighborhoods, drive through parking lots, and maybe just if someone had driven through that parking lot when that person was going to do the robbery right before, maybe that would have been a deterrent by itself. And the deterrent factor is real. And we'd rather deter crime than solve crime, honestly. And I just wonder, instead of some of the, traffic enforcement, neighborhoods, I think, are a priority for me, and probably a council decision. But that's something. But also another question I've been getting. So I've been getting some of the same videos, but also lots of pictures of homelessness and such. And I know there's a court decision in Phoenix that they have to clean up that area there. Frankly, these people are doing the same thing here. They're using our public parks and stuff for toilet facilities and such, and so that is going on. But I also think that there's someone pushing a stolen shopping cart down Fountain Avenue, Fountains here. We're not doing them any favors by not encouraging them to find help. And there is a crime being committed there, or possession is a crime. And just your thoughts on that.
Councilmember Skelecorn, thank you for the comments. That is a topic that we've not typically addressed. A shopping cart. Deputies typically they have to have some level of maybe reasonable suspicion that the cart is stolen. And to your point, if someone's walking down with a cart that says fries on it, maybe that would be the potential to contact them. What we have found typically, and we haven't talked to every store here in town, Fry's and Bash's and Safeway, is if they did have a shopping cart that was removed from their property, is that an offense that they are interested in pursuing? We have to have the victim of the crime, so Bash's, Safeway, Fry's, wherever that shopping cart would be from, that they'd want to aid in the prosecution for us to then proceed with that. But yeah, I mean, if it is a crime, we have a duty to investigate it. It's just not anything that we've done to this point. Personally, that I don't know how many of the individuals in town in that community utilize the shopping carts. I'm sure we've all seen at a time or two. I don't know. I know over near Gilbert Road and the like the 202 area, there's a subject who lives in that area and they have a shopping cart, and, I don't know who it belongs to. But to your point, I know that they usually do use some shopping carts or mechanisms like that to store their belongings or transport their belongings. So it's one of those subjects that, we can definitely make sure if the stores in town are reporting thefts of shopping carts and they want that to be a prosecutable offense or proceed with that or pursue it, MCSO would pursue that just like any other crime.
Any other questions? Thank you, Captain. The statistics that we were talking about, they're important because, before we would say there's any trends or anything, because I've lived here long enough to know that these things come and go. And so it's important, maybe sometime down the future, we can look at some more long-term. And then also, from what you were saying, we're going to be looking at the contract, right? We did a big assessment the end of last year, and I think there was some room for localizing it a little bit, or seeing what's important, what our priorities might be. So that's definitely coming down the pike.
And Madam Mayor, if I could, just go back to your comment, Councilmember Skillicorn. I have heard from the council in the time frame since January about a desire for more community patrols and, maybe not as much traffic enforcement. And we have been trying to impart that upon our deputies to, find a good balance of active traffic enforcement, but also being in the community, especially overnight. I mean, we've got 3-4 deputies on every night. They can't be everywhere all at once, and I don't think that anyone expects that, but the requirement for them to be involved in more into the neighborhoods, even looking for open garage doors, notifying neighbors, residents, even if it's 2-3 in the morning, polite notification to them that, hey, your garage door is open. I don't think that you probably intended it to be open. So, and the deputies are tracking their stats when they do that. They're putting themselves out on a community patrol in their beat in their neighborhood so that we, the command staff, can make sure that those activities are increasing and that they are occurring. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Appreciate it. Our next presentation is going to be about the Sunridge Natural Preserve. Do you want to introduce that, please?
Sure, thanks, Mayor. I'd like to ask Kevin Snipes to come up. Kevin might be the only person newer to his role, or newer than me to the role. Kevin is today accepted the special assignment of serving as our interim community services director. So he is going to lead us through this presentation this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So today we were talking about Sunridge Park, which we've talked about several different times. Let's see here, if I can get this thing to. There we go. So we've had many talks about this property and the potential of putting in some assets into this location. They've been met both positively and negatively from people in the community as well as people throughout the town. Some of the comments had been that they didn't want to see a parking lot go in. They didn't want to see it be as much like the trailhead where we have shade structures and places to sit down. And so we listened to that, and so we've reduced the cost expenditure on this substantially, as you can see, down to $100,000. And we don't think that we'll be anywhere in that range, but we wanted to have that cushion in depending on how everything ends up coming out. We're planning on utilizing our utilizing the trail builders to help us out with building the trails. They've been out looking at the area, trying to find ways that they can do it, both economically and as easily as possible, providing some good views and around the landscaping that's out there. So we're looking to have it be a preserve to where that we can put in our ordinances and help protect the area, help keep the ordinances involved with the town for all of our preserve areas would then be applicable to this location. It would only be a sunrise to sunset, open and close. We won't have any more of the shade ramadas, no parking lot, having it just be a pedestrian walking area. To do that, coming in off of Desert Canyon will require a pedestrian bridge to come across the wash area that's there. We don't want to have people walking through an area that we know is a natural wash area. That just doesn't go well anytime it rains, and you run more liability with that. And so that's why we're looking at doing a pedestrian bridge across there if needed for that area. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Councilman?
Madam Mayor, when I asked to put this on the agenda, I specifically asked about, not doing anything or selling this property. So I'm curious of and maybe staff can help out with what the legalities of, getting bids and how we would sell it, something like that.
Sure, I can jump in there. We actually are under contract right now to have the parcel assessed so that we can get a true market value of what it is. So that's underway right now. And then pending direction, if the council would want to move in that direction, we would need to move through the process for sale. And I know Aaron can jump in here, but it would be for open bid. We would have to go through posting a receipt of open window time, and then we would have to review those bids and then take action from there. What am I missing, Aaron?
Not much, other than process,
Yeah.
which I can advise the council of separately. But for the public purposes, it's statutorily laid out. It's a pretty straightforward process, and we have sold property pursuant to that process before. You put it out as long as it's appraises below a certain threshold. You just put it out for equal bids, and once the bids ultimately come in, we select the appropriate bid, usually based on highest bidder. And that's the process. It's fairly straightforward.
And Madam Mayor, staff, we've already started the process of having bidded?
No, I think what Manager Goodwin was saying was that we are getting an appraisal and would get direction from council, of course, before we proceeded with any bid.
And Madam Mayor, what's the cost of the appraisal?
Justin actually initiated that for us. I don't know if he's on the floor right now.
He just walked out.
I would say, perfect timing.
It was about 2,000.
I would say, we have someone on retainer to do that.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, I know this went from a $1 million project. Now it's pretty skinny at $100,000. I'm just wondering, I know you said even the $100,000 is probably a lot more than you need. What do we need, since the Trailblazers are doing this voluntarily? What do we need, and where would that part of that $100,000 go toward?
The biggest thing will be accessibility and helping out with the layout of the design to make sure that we're going through, and if they do need equipment, that we can get something in there to help them out with it.
Last time we were here, we talked about a drainage culvert and the bridge to enter. Have we looked into whether there's any other access egress points that the trail builders could use that we wouldn't require that sort of heavy lifting?
Not and stay on Eagle Ridge, on Desert Canyon Drive like we said we would. So anywhere along that side, there's a water drainage way that runs all the way down through there.
And why can't we develop the other street, just to inform me?
One of the things that we had said we wouldn't do is we wouldn't come in from that side into the park, and so we're trying to stay true to that.
Is that flexible? Could we look into that?
We could, yeah.
Yeah, because I think from what I've heard from the homeowners association and the residents, they just really don't want any construction. They don't want any bridges. And I think, again, we're just talking about this tonight, but again, I could reach out to that community and say, if we access the other street and we didn't have to do all the work, would they be amenable to that? Because from the feedback I've received, they're okay with the trails. Of course, they don't like the parking lots. But they also didn't like the drainage culverts, and they didn't like the bridges and like bringing industrial bulldozers and stuff. So I think that's something we should be looking into.
the reason that we did that was because of the meeting that we had with the homeowners that are directly across the street from there. And that was their main request, was they didn't want access coming in from that side. And so by going in on the other side, there aren't any houses over there. And so it made it to where that the entrance and exit point was on a street that didn't have houses.
Yeah, it's just, it's so skinny right now that they might not object anymore, since there's really going to be very little there that's not really natural. So, thank you.
Thank you. I've been asked to ask you to speak up a little bit, please.
Sure.
Councilwoman?
Hi. I can only imagine how many staff hours have been put into all of the versions of this project. And before I say anything, I want to say I appreciate everybody involved in that. When this project was first proposed, the feedback I received, and I think everyone else as well, was a resounding no. And then the second version, a resounding no, and a couple maybes. And now we have a negotiation taking place, right? The residents have kind of understood, okay, we seem a little determined to put something here. So they give us this idea of, well, if you only do the trails, well, I guess you can do a bridge. I really don't like the idea of building a park when no one is excited about it. As far as I can tell, maybe no one is too harsh of a term, but I have yet to meet anyone who's excited about the park. The yeses that I do hear are people going, well, I guess it's okay. I would honestly, and thank you so much for your work and getting the budget lower on it. I just, over months and months of talking to a lot of people about this over and over and over again, you finally convinced me that you don't want it. And I think we should just kill this. The park development fees we discussed earlier could be used somewhere else, and I just think that maybe this is one to let go.
Okay, let's say we go through the motion of potentially selling it. So these questions are probably for Aaron. One, does it require a town vote because it is town-owned property? Two, if this is something that comes to fruition, what can this lot be used for? Is it zoned for housing? Is it zoned for, because that's going to be a part of if somebody wants to come in and buy the lot from us at market value. 10 lots, what are we talking here?
So I can answer the first question, and Director Wesley, I may have to turn to him to answer the second question of what the current zoning for the property is. The statutes lay out that if property is valued at $1.5 million or less, then it does not have to go to a town vote. It doesn't go to a vote. If it's valued higher than 1.5 million, then that's the point at which voters have to pre-authorize putting it out for bid. So that maybe answers that question. So your ARS 9402 and 403 are your references for that.
Thank you for the number.
You're welcome, yeah. And then I may have to, yeah, I don't know the answer to your second question, Councilwoman.
Councilmember, without going up and looking at the map to remember exactly, I know it's a single-family residential zone. I think it's R110, but it may be.
For all of us that don't have those zoning numbers memorized, what does that mean? I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure there's a couple of people that have the same question.
That's a single-family residence lot, minimum 10,000 square feet.
Thank you.
So I know this is like doing all this guesswork, but how many acres is it? And 1.5 million for a lot of acres in Fountain Hills is not unreasonable. Do you have any idea at all?
It is 5 acres. I can speak to that as far as the value. I don't know that we have.
So we find out how much once it's appraised. We may have to have a vote, which we could hook on with another election, I guess, but otherwise that's an expense. And then whoever, if we do sell it, then whoever pays the most would get it. And then even though it's zoned single-family, I mean, they could request, I know it probably wouldn't get anywhere, but they could request a different zoning. So just trying to follow that down the line and see where it could go. So just so you're aware, if we do go down that way, that's the possibility. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I wanted to pose the question of if we get the appraisal and we wait until a time that we're already having an election, does it still cost us to get those words on the ballot if the ballot's already going to exist? Okay, so if we wait a few months to make it serious, I'm just, this is completely me talking for the sake of theory, but would it hurt anything to let the land sit there a little bit longer?
I think if you're talking about, will we lose the development fee money, I think we still have a few years on that, right? Because if we don't use a park development fee on growth-related park expenses, then we have to give it up. But I think, Aaron, do you know how long we have?
I do not know how long we have with respect to that, but to Councilwoman Toth's point, yes, obviously we could hold on to it and then tie it in with another election. I don't know that the cost, maybe Linda would know better, I don't know the cost is zero, but it would be quite a bit less than calling a special election. I mean, that would be a significant savings.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. At this point, I can't speak on behalf of the citizens, the residents, or the homeowners association for Sunridge, but my common sense tells me that the residents would probably rather have the access egress on the other road with the houses than having us sell the land and build a bunch of homes there. So I think at this point, I'd just really like to reach back out to the community and just ask them, would you rather have just the natural trails, the different access egress, or would you like us to sell the land and develop it? And I think that's something that we could do probably pretty quickly, get input from the HOA and maybe even do a public notice. And I think the residents would probably be happy with that. And we have been looking at this for a park for a long time. And again, it might be a skinny park, but I think the residents would be, I think that's a nice option for the residents. I think they would agree with that.
Yep, we can follow through with that and do a little more outreach.
Thanks. Just, I know that many of the people that are interested in this, Rachel already sent them this, but there are several regulations that go with the preserve. So if this was a preserve, as we were saying, we would designate it as a preserve that would allow all town ordinances to be enforced. And so there are a lot of restrictions there. So I would like to go ahead with it too, to be a park that's acceptable to everybody. And if that ends up being coming in a different direction, or if it doesn't for some reason, but you said it would be okay, but if for some reason it wasn't, then maybe a little more of a clear picture of what a culvert would look like. But again, that was looked at because folks didn't want it there, but now if they do, then maybe we could look at it that way.
Sure.
All right. Oh, yes, Linda.
I just wanted to, thank you, Mayor, and just wanted to answer Councilmember Toth's question. Yes, the cost for an election is significantly higher if it's not during an election year. So if we were to do this in 2023, let's just say, we would pay about $2.10 per registered voter as opposed to 51 cents per registered voter.
We pay the bill there? Thank you. So do you understand, Rachel and Kevin, where we're going then?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we have call to the public. And again, I'll remind everybody speaking to the mic because we're hearing from folks at home that aren't hearing. Do we have speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor, we do. There are some people who put that they want to speak under the Sunridge item. I'm putting you at call to the public because it's a presentation doesn't allow for public comment, but will allow you your opportunity to speak. First, we're going to just go through the 2 comments that were made, which is at your dais. And the first one is Bobby Kinnemer. She couldn't be here, so she just want to let you know she's for the Sunridge Canyon Preserve, but you have to read her comments because she has some other additional verbiage for that. And then Robert James, who also says he's for the Sunridge National Preserve, but also has some stipulations in his comments. And now we'll go over to the people who were here. The first is Gary Clark. Are you here, Gary?
Thank you. I wanted to speak on the noise pollution that's coming along, specifically North Saguaro. I've been a resident for 8 years. In the past 3 or 4 years, it's been getting increasingly loud and for extended periods of time. And there are times when it's unbearable. I mean, my condo, literally, I live in El Lago Village at the corner of North Saguaro and El Lago. And there are times when, I mean, you can't even hear the TV set playing, it's so loud. And I think there's some other folks here that wanted to speak on the same thing. The town has a wonderful noise ordinance, right? I mean, if we would enforce this ordinance, you're not going to have a problem. I guess the question is how would one go about doing that? Do you do it in an enforcement manner? This actually says you could appoint someone, not even have a law enforcement officer do it, if I read the rule right. Or do you try to divert the traffic in one way or another?
Hey, sir, can Councilman ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
What kind of noises are you experiencing? Is it drag racing? Is it lawnmowers?
It's, well, sometimes it sounds like it. There are 2 primary categories, in my opinion. One is motorcycles, okay? And that's almost the most irritating, you know, when you get a herd of motorcycles coming through. And the other are cars. And I could have my SUV out and floor it, and you're not going to hear a thing. But there are a lot of cars and souped-up cars and sports cars that it appears when folks are coming out of that stoplight going toward Shea, they speed up very quickly. And when they do that speed up, it is very, very loud. So, you know, I think if we could figure out a way to enforce the code, we're in good shape, but that's probably easier said than done. And I don't know, there's been some folks talking about maybe putting in speed bumps. I hate speed bumps, but that an option may be redirecting traffic for motorcycles away from North Saguaro. There are actually, it's technology out there today that you can put up a camera and an audio-visual unit, and when the sound goes above a certain decibel, it snaps a picture of the license plate. So there, I mean, there's a lot of things that one could be looked at.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
I have another question for you, if you don't mind. Is this something that happens every day? Is it on weekends? Is there a particular time of the day that this happens?
It's been getting, over the past 3 years, it's been getting significantly worse, right? And, you know, really, every day, the weekends, it's constant. Mornings and afternoons are particularly bad during the week. The policy, if I read it again correctly, said that there could be exceptions when we have fests and stuff like that, because you don't want to keep the people away. But
I do think we have more people that want to speak on this particular topic, so we'll probably be able to learn more from all the different speakers.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have Crystal Kavanaugh.
Good evening, Crystal Kavanaugh, Fountain Hills resident. I spoke at the CTP for P&Z on March 13th, warning that if behavioral health business Angel Heart Health Services was issued a business license, that it would not be conforming to the C-O zoning. I spoke again at the Town Council on March 21st, warning that any business license application for Angel Heart Health Services at 16927 East Saguaro should be denied since behavioral health is not allowed in our C-O zoning. It seemed almost unnecessary for us to be bringing this to the town's attention. It's a slam dunk decision to deny it. But we'd heard rumblings that Grady had said John Wesley may actually have the authority to expand the ordinance, so we spoke up loudly. Next, we hear that a private executive session was scheduled tonight to discuss the legal aspects. What possible legal aspects? Why are you worried about getting sued? We have had a clearly defined C-O commercial office ordinance that has been in existence for quite some time. And it says the only counseling allowed in this zone near this residential area is for marital counseling. So why does it seem some of you are bending over backwards? I FOIA'd and received the Angel Heart business license application. The emails should also be coming any day now. So here it is, right here. Ironically, it was filled out on March 13th, the day I spoke at P&Z, and at which time was told that there had been no such application. It shows this business was well aware the property was zoned C-O. It also clearly lists their services as behavioral health services, outpatient services, counseling services, and peer support services. It is an inappropriate land use issue and should be denied. Why is this so hard? Why are citizens once again having to bring you evidence that it should be an automatic denial? But some on this dais go out of their way to import more substance abuse problems and loitering. Is this a way to justify a homeless shelter next? Will it be okay for imported clientele to just mill about the parking lot, smoking, waiting for their treatments? Similar outpatient substance abuse clinics are in multiple locations in Phoenix, ruining the surrounding businesses and neighborhoods as they wait for their substance abuse treatments. And guess what? This does not need to happen here. It's a no-brainer. It already doesn't fit into our zoning ordinance, and it is a non-conforming business. Just say no. Residents may seek all available legal recourse if necessary. And if needed, your vote should be public so the Fountain Hills residents can clearly see who up there does not want to follow our own zoning codes. What other codes do you plan to ignore? Thank you.
Next, we have Larry Myers.
Mayor, Council, Town Manager. First, I'd like to apologize to the new Town Manager for giving her such a wonderful first couple days on the job. Hopefully, it'll be the last time we talk about stuff like this because there is a litany of ordinances. We got a noise ordinance. I didn't know about that. So I say, and as I have said, and I will continue to say, about anything that is written down in the town's ordinances and codes, read them, follow them. No town staff gets to expand them because we didn't elect that person. You're all up there to serve us. And this one just went through 2 years of creating ordinances saying where behavioral health can be. You just voted it in February. We know where it belongs. And it doesn't belong in the least intensive commercial space in town. It says so right in our ordinances. And so to me, I echo Crystal's comments. Why are we even here? Why are we discussing this? The stuff is written down. Somebody made it. Some of it's a long time ago. Some of it's been amended and updated. I can read it, and I don't need to be sitting in my desk at my computer 8 hours a day for 40 hours a week for multiple weeks reading things that are known to y'all. That's the bottom line in all of this. We'd like to sit and enjoy our town. We don't need to be working for free. I don't mind doing it, but our research is so deep, it's undeniable. But on the surface, it's right there in a couple of paragraphs in the town ordinance under C-O. And it doesn't take more than 5 minutes to get through the entire commercial section. So I would implore you, Rachel, stay away from any more troubling days, read the ordinances, tell the staff to do their job, and then we're all done. And then you won't have to listen to me anymore. Thank you.
We're not going to applaud because there's some things that are said there that are just assumptions. There's been no action. The comments about staff are unwarranted and inappropriate. Linda?
Next, we have Kim Wolborski.
Hello, Madam Mayor, Council. I'm Kim Olborski. I'm a resident of Fountain Hills, and I'm a resident of Sunridge Canyon. And I'm here to talk about the park/preserve, hopefully preserve and not so much park. I'm the one who wanted no trails, nothing. I would like to have this be an opportunity for our town to protect our local environment, to do something for the environment, for the wildlife, to just make a space that is natural. But it looks like that's not going to happen. And like many of the residents of Sunridge Canyon, I've talked to a lot of my neighbors. No one has wanted the park. People have said, okay, we'll take trails because we don't want more than that. And we don't need the park, but we've been through that. I think we're kind of past that. It's going to happen. I would like to say, at one point, I think the board had asked if they could look at, purchasing the parcel for a very nominal fee. No one, I don't think, well, no one I've talked to would want to have that built up. We really like it the way it is. We like our wildlife. We like having a place that isn't built. But one of the things that I saw in the last plan, I didn't see it here, and I just want to say I really hope it's gone, is that there was a little caveat at the end. It said it's just trails with possibility of future improvements. And I'd really like the possibility of future improvements to come out. We don't want a parking lot. We don't, there's concern. We've had a homeless person living behind the monument at Desert Canyon and Golden Eagle. So there are people in the neighborhood, that once the trail is there, it's going to be an opportunity for people to come and live there. That's, I'd like to know who's going to enforce that, how on earth that's going to be enforced when it's just a trail with an entrance. The other thing is the whole thing with dogs and dog cleanup. People just don't clean up after their dogs. We put out the nice little plastic bags, and most people use them. Most people are great, but there are lots of people, and I actually am seeing more and more of this, maybe it's the time of year, who are just letting their dogs off leash in the parks or on those leashes that are like 20 feet long. And if your dog's off 20 feet away, you're probably not going to go out in the bush and clean up after it. I don't know. I sound like I'm just whining at this point. So I am very grateful that the plan has come down to what it is. I appreciate all the work that's been done to make that happen, and I hope we can just leave this area as natural as possible. Thank you.
Next, we have Barry Wolborski, and Barry also provided you with a written comment, but is here to speak in person as well.
I'm her husband, and I live here too. So, the Sunridge Canyon Community Association and the community residents have made it very clear to the town they neither want nor need a community park. The town, however, for reasons unknown to almost anyone, has insisted on placing this unwanted and unneeded park in our community. So, the Sunridge Canyon Community Association has decided they will not oppose the Sunridge Community Trail or Park if the town agrees to the following conditions. 1, there will never be a walking bridge. By the way, the reason we didn't want the entrance on Sunridge was because there was going to be a parking lot there. We have no objection if there's just a trail, so go for it. 2, there will never be a parking lot. 3, there will never be a ramada or similar structures. 4, there will never be lights. 5, there will never be benches, tables, or other seating. 6, the trail system will never connect to any other trail system. 7, there will never be a bathroom. 8, there will be no major earth moving. Minor earth moving for trail cleaning is accepted. 9, the areas will be left in its natural state as a preserve, except for trails with floral labeling signs acceptable. 10, drones will not be allowed to fly in the area. 11, motorized vehicles will not be permitted in the area. Maintenance vehicles are accepted. We recognize that a future council could alter these terms at some point, but we're willing to trust the staff and the council to not renege on this agreement if they decide to make it. That's all I've got. Anybody have any questions for me?
Next, we have Matthew Corrigan.
Madam Mayor, council members, Matthew Corrigan, homeowner and full-time resident, Fountain Hills. Please reject the homeless housing component of the MAG investment plan. You'll find it under Human Services, bullet points 2 and 3, if you'll read those. So the bottom line is, don't bring the zone to Fountain Hills. What's the zone? Ed Zercher could tell you if he was here, because he was city manager for 8 years in Phoenix while all this was going on. And so what is it? It's a city-sponsored transient slum of 1,000 residents that encompasses blocks and blocks of prime real estate downtown. But I can't describe it adequately, so I'm relying on a reporter from the AZ Free News to tell you the story. Her name, Corinne Murdoch. The date, March 28th, 2023. She reads as follows. On Monday, the Maricopa County Superior Court ruled that the city of Phoenix is at fault for the homeless crisis most evident in the massive encampment downtown known as the Zone. Judge Scott Blaney ruled that the city officials had done nothing to improve the zone, declaring it a public nuisance. Rather, Blaney declared that the city had created and maintained the zone. Blaney added the actions undertaken by the city alleged to address the homeless crisis had served only to grow its bureaucracy and throw money into the government and nonprofit programs that haven't yielded any discernible results. With exceptions, the action items which your city representative testified centered around the creation of more bureaucracy, additional staff positions, and obtaining additional funding for programs to vaguely address homelessness in general, stated Blaney. The court received very little evidence, if any, that the city intends to take immediate, meaningful action to protect its constituent business homeowners, their employees, residents, from the lawlessness and chaos of the zone. Blaney ordered the city to abate the zone by permanently removing the encampments, by public rights of way, cleaning up the biohazard materials, human feces, urine, drug paraphernalia, and other trash, removing individuals committing offenses against the public order. Effectively, the judge ordered the city to enforce existing laws. The city has until July 10th to achieve material results toward compliance with the court's ruling. In the 23-page ruling, Blaney agreed with arguments proposed by plaintiffs made up of residents, business owners, and the zone that the city stopped enforcing laws within the zone, resulting in increased crime and violence. My bottom line is, don't bring the zone to Fountain Hills and reject the housing homelessness component of MAG. Thank you.
Next, we have Melissa Graves.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Graves, and I reside at 12438
Ma'am,
North Sorrel Boulevard
excuse
at the
me.
corner of El Lago.
Could you talk
and
into the
Saguaro.
microphone?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
At the corner of Saguaro and El Lago. And I just wanted to address the traffic noise that has grown to like an overwhelming level along Saguaro, affecting my quality of life and the quality of life of my neighbors. It is all we talk about anymore. Starting at 5 a.m. with work trucks and semis that literally rattle my bedroom windows. People accelerating off the light at Saguaro and El Lago. The weekend sounds like Bike Week at Daytona anymore. People going over the 35-mile-per-hour limit. Directly across from our building is a posted sign that reads Safety Corridor, a segment of the roadway with heightened law enforcement. This is not happening. Saguaro from El Lago to Palisades is very heavy with foot traffic all going to and from the park. This area of our town is the crown jewel and a focal point of our town, yet it's loud, it's congested with excessive traffic noise, and it's not safe. People are flying through that intersection. The area should not be a designated truck route, which it is at the moment. Fountain Hills Boulevard and Palisades are both wider, they have frontage road, and the houses are set back much further from the roadway. This area of town along Saguaro needs your immediate attention, whether it's rerouting the truck route to another place, putting in speed bumps or a roundabout to deter heavy traffic, reducing the speed along this safety corridor, or simply enforcing the law and ordinances that are already in place. I urge the town to please address this excessive noise and nuisance to myself and the neighbors. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Bruce Boyce.
Mayor and commissioners. Sure. I had originally planned to ask a couple of questions about the convergence of the what is now called the Sunridge Reserve. And I got the message in the last half hour that we're nowhere near a convergence, and which would ask, you know, what's the plan to complete from here? And I'm disappointed to hear this. You know, people change, people come in at different positions, and they have to learn, and that's the reality of it. But I just, I'm once again concerned about the convergence of this thing, and I would like to make sure that the HOA is involved in continuing discussions so that we know what's going on, and perhaps we can offer some help to the town to make a decision, because we have the fingers on the pulse of our residents. And so at that point, Rachel, I'd like to, someone, maybe a monthly meeting or every 2 months meeting, just to review what's going on, would be a worthwhile thing to do. I think it would be, because it's, you know, we've been, you know, look back 2 years, there's a lot of progress has been made compared to what the plan was originally. And the idea of the reserve is a lot better. But I'm still concerned about converging on something that meets the town's needs and the residents' needs. Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Bill Smith.
Hi, this is my first time doing this, so bear with me here. I'm here to talk about the proposed reserve. I oppose it. I want to kill it, or I'd like to see it killed. When I looked into this, I said, why do we need to have this? What's the town position? So based on everything I looked at from meetings here and what came out from the Community Service Master Plan, they said we needed a new park because we don't meet national parks and rec standards. Since when does the rest of the country dictate what the standard is to us? Number one. Parks are a primary factor for resident and business attraction and retention. Last I checked, it's not hard to sell a house around here. It's not hard to buy one either. Businesses come here. I haven't heard anybody complain with I'm not going to buy in Sunridge Canyon because there's no park up there. Let's see, 80% of Fountain Hills residents indicated they wanted parks with easy access. Okay. Why does Sunridge Canyon have to be the place where that easy access is? I mean, how hard is it to go down to Golden Eagle or any of the other parks? And what kind of park amenities are going to have with this, and I'm quoting some of the words here, slimmed down version of a park? All you're going to have there are trails, and wouldn't we be better off at another location that's more centrally located, where people could play ball, run, jog, play the Frisbee, or whatever the park would be able to hold besides just hiking? Do we have to have one park for every 2,281 residents? We're at 5,000. Oh my God. You would think that that's not really a big deal. I have a lot of people come to you and said, hey, we need a ton more parks. They probably want more services, not more parks. Let's see. So, as I mentioned earlier, 80% of the Fountain Hills residents desire to have parks within easy access. However, the original first survey we had, 60% of the Sunridge Canyon residents that responded said they wouldn't use the park if it came to be. So it doesn't make good sense to build it if 60% of the people that live there wouldn't use it. Also, at a previous meeting here, some of the people that pitched before I did, I recognize the names, they had some of the same concerns that I have. Is that me already? So I oppose it. Let's leave it as is. A natural is more beautiful than anything else a man can do, and let's not harm the habitat by pulling them all up so we can have an extra place to walk. Thanks.
Next, we have Liz Gildersleeve.
Oh, Ms. Tall. Good evening and welcome, Rachel Goodwin. Happy first meeting. I have a feeling you're going to do a fabulous job. I am also concerned that there was an executive session prior to this meeting concerning the business license application for an applicant who recently purchased a building on Saguaro, just south of Shea and Saguaro, and that application clearly does not meet the zoning requirements for CO, commercial office. The applicant owns a behavioral health services business. Behavioral health, as has been stated, is not allowed in a CO, as you all, I hope, know, and the zoning ordinance is pretty clear. But an even bigger concern for me is that the business license application should have been an easy denial by our town staff. Hopefully, the executive session prior to this meeting was simply a formality to discuss the denial based on our zoning. If not, it needs to be discussed out in the open and voted on by everyone on this council. We need to know who on this council is trying to skirt our zoning ordinances in favor of a non-compliant business, if at all. An approval of this business license would be setting a dangerous precedent, one that does not protect homeowners, especially those in the Fire Rock communities and nearby businesses, and frankly, contradicts the oath you all took when you were sworn into office. Slightly off topic, since there seems to be a consideration lately to disregard zoning ordinances that residents have depended on, does that mean we can expect you to ignore the zoning for a single-family parcel at Palisades and Mountainside that's been in place for decades? I sure hope not. That discussion will be coming before you in a few weeks, so I hear, and I suppose we'll find out then. As I've said before, if residents, homeowners, and small businesses can't rely on the routine enforcement of zoning ordinances, especially ones that have been in place for decades, what good are they? Thank you.
Diane Price put down that she wanted to speak but had to leave, and just wanted to let you know she'll send her comments through email. Next, we have Michael Scott.
Mayor and the rest of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Michael Scott. I've been here since 1992. And I'd like to bring up something that I think is essential. We need a primary property tax. We need bonds for roads. We need bonds for our kids at school and overrides. It's a necessity. We're living off a sales tax that is not sustainable for this town. And we have to get there one way or another. I'm looking at the state and what they have done and what they're not doing. We are in the bottom 6 in the nation, bottom 6 states in spending for public education. We are in the bottom 6 states in spending per capita. Since 2010, that's 12 years, our education system has suffered dramatically, down 10% in funding. I guess those are some of the reasons that we have to do this by ourselves. And by the way, corporations get a big tax break in this state. It's below 7% tax. They say it's for expansion, but I've heard that for the last 20 years. I think it's time for us to get ours. And that's a big chunk out of income when you're giving a 7% tax break to corporations. And also, in this county, we're really an exception as far as a primary property tax. Most all small towns have a primary property tax. Also, they have bonds for schools and overrides and bonds for roads and everything else. On the 21st of February, Councilman Skillicorn, you mentioned a Streets First program. And you said something about $6 million a year for the next 10 years. And that's the last I heard of the program. Where is it? I haven't seen anything.
Sir, please speak through the chair. Appreciate it.
I beg your pardon?
Please speak through the chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also, on the 28th of February, Councilman Skillicorn, you mentioned that you would not advocate for taxes for, bonds for roads. I don't know why not. Something has to change here because this is simply not sustainable.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next, Joanne Girardo. Hopefully I said that right. If not, let me know.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Joanne Girardo, resident of Fountain Hills. As someone who has lived in New York City, downtown Phoenix, and downtown Fountain Hills, I fully understand that along with the benefits of city life comes the downside of traffic noise. However, the proximity of traffic noise to residential dwellings has become unbearable. The noise level on Saguaro Boulevard has dramatically increased in the past few years. It used to be that when I heard a horn honk, I would jokingly say, "Don't they know we're in Fountain Hills?" Now, persistent horn blowing, revving of car and motorcycle engines, trucks, speeding cars, loud music often starts at 5:30 a.m. on weekdays. Weekends, noise levels are distressing from morning till night. Noise pollution adversely affects our lives. Problems related to noise include stress-related illness, high blood pressure, speech interference, hearing loss, sleep disruption, and lost productivity. As an international dark sky community with a project commitment to protect human health, it is our obligation to keep safe the sound as well as the sight of our town. Together, let's find a solution for our town's noise pollution. Thank you.
Next, we have Tim Taylor.
Mayor, council members. I'm against the Sunridge Canyon Preserve. Sunridge Canyon the community there has a golf course, Golden Eagle Park with baseball, softball, tennis, basketball, and adjacent on the school grounds, pickleball facilities. The other thing Sunridge Canyon has are sidewalks, which are used all the time. So I don't think a walking path is all that critical for the area or for Fountain Hills community. I've heard discussions about fitness stations being put on in a park where the walkway goes around. I think that $100,000 could go a long way to serving the whole community of Fountain Hills rather than just a small area there in Sunridge Canyon. The papers had articles on the significant cost of replacing the Fountain Lake liner. Maybe that $100,000 could be put into a capital reserve to start allocating money for the replacement of that in a few years. Thank you.
Next, we have Ray Sears. Hopefully I said your last name correctly.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Ray Saris. I live on Saguaro Boulevard between El Logo and Gunsight. I believe it's well established now that there's a noise problem on Saguaro Boulevard, and it's caused by fast traffic and loud vehicle mufflers, so I won't talk long on this. I'd like to offer a suggestion for a solution to this problem. I spent 32 years working in law enforcement, police traffic patrols and supervising police patrols. I've seen various traffic calming techniques from speed bumps, speed humps, speed tables, corner bump outs, roundabouts, signage, and other environmental designs. All of these calming techniques have a common theme. They're designed to slow traffic down. I would suggest that the simplest and least expensive strategy would be just to lower the speed limit. The cause of the problem in front of my residence is vehicles accelerating rapidly from the stoplight at El Lago. You go from 0 to 35 miles an hour, and it seems like some cars want to do that as quick as they can, which causes the noise. Also, going the opposite direction from 35 miles an hour to 0 at the stoplight, you have a lot of people engine braking, downshifting, and you get the brum, 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 you know, noise, which drives you nuts at 4 in the morning. So what I would suggest is lowering the speed limit and using a graduated lowering of the speed limit as you're coming into the downtown area, rather than keeping it at 35, maybe move it down to 25 at the wash, just what would be south of the Peaks Fitness Center, that wash there, move it down to 25 so that vehicles have a chance to slow down a little bit before they get to the stop line. And that would reduce that deceleration noise. And conversely, when they're taking off from the stoplight, they can only get up to 25 and then 35 later on. It would be a more smoother transition. I think this would also help law enforcement. If the speed was lower, the violations would stand out more. The noise and muffler violations would stand out more at the lower speed limit. Be easier for them to enforce laws that are on the books already. I think it would also make the downtown area safer if it was 25 miles per hour. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Next, we have Harry Stelling Jr.
Mayor, council members, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Harry Stelling Jr., and I live at 12438 North Saguaro Boulevard with my wife, Bobby. We've lived in Fountain Hills since 1986, and in our condo along Saguaro since 2000. We love our town. We both retired in 2022. I was a zoning plans examiner for 21 and a half years with Maricopa County Planning and Development Department, and my wife was an elementary school teacher. We've looked forward to retirement and a quieter lifestyle, but our once quiet condo is now constantly filled with traffic noise. Not only has the daily number of vehicles increased dramatically, there's been a huge increase in very loud vehicles, dump trucks, concrete trucks, delivery trucks, semis, loud pickup trucks, sports cars, loud mufflers, loud motorcycles, and so on. The traffic is more typical of a highway rather than a street within a small town. The construction of, the town's proposal to add sidewalks in front of our complex is causing concern for fear of increasing the traffic noise and making our experiences even more untenable. Already, we're unable to enjoy our patio along Saguaro or open windows along the east or southeast sides of our condo. Our phone conversations and online meetings are disrupted by traffic noise. This is all exclusive of the town's festivals and events. For Maricopa County, I reviewed the plans for many residences for noise attenuation requirements within the state-defined vicinity of Luke Air Force Base, and the construction of our condos exceeds those requirements. Since we and other residents are feeling unhealthy symptoms related to high-level noise exposure, it appears that the noise levels exceed those within the vicinity of Luke Air Force Base, or an average exceeding 65 decibels. The World Health Organization defines noise above 65 decibels as noise pollution. Noise becomes harmful at higher levels as well as at longer duration. Close to a busy road or highway, the traffic noise is probably around 85 decibels. Recently, I ran a quick informal survey of traffic. That morning, I counted 85 motorcycles passing our complex between 10 and 11 a.m. A typical motorcycle is approximately 80 decibels at 50 feet. The exterior wall of our living room is approximately 35.5 feet from the curb along Saguaro, and our covered patio is approximately 26.5 feet from the curb. We urge the council to, one, ensure that sidewalk improvements do not add to the already untenable and unhealthy traffic noise problem, and perhaps even incorporate sound-reducing measures, and two, begin a serious study of the noise pollution problems for realistic and sustainable solutions. We commend the town for its efforts and success at getting the town certified as a dark sky community. We urge the council to also place its focus on noise pollution so as not to be designated as the noisiest, most unlivable dark sky community. Thank you.
Next, we have David Matazik.
Thank you. I had stuff all written up for you. Oh, by the way, Mayor and council members, but everybody got to it before me, even the boom, 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 boom. But my wife Karen and I moved here in 2003. We're right on Saguaro. And what I've really noticed is the souped up bikes and these sports cars that they'll start and come down, they'll go up Gunsight and then turn back down Gunsight and come around and go up El Lago. They think they're hot. You know, I'm 74 years old. I can be 16 again. You know, I mean, boom. And the motorcycles, the nice motorcycles come through, they're nice and mellow, no problem. And then the guy comes in with his stereo cranked up so I can go in my courtyard and dance, if I could dance. But this is the problem where we're getting. Those people have to be addressed, especially these damn sports cars. They are nuts. I mean, he's sitting out at the stoplight on the east side on Saguaro. I'm in a back bedroom and I can hear him, and all of a sudden I hear my shades were vibrating against the wood frame. That's how loud it was. Nobody around to give him a ticket. You give them a ticket and charge them $150. Hey, it's going to go away. They'll go around town. Go out in the country and blow away the deer or something, or whatever you can do. But it's unhealthy for us. And I do have a thing here from the American Journal, the Journal of American College of Cardiology. And they talk about the noise pollution from vehicles causing hypertension that can lead to cardiac as well as strokes happening. So I understand, my wife and I both understand the city is growing. The traffic is going to grow on Saguaro. But get the noisy traffic off, the trucks. And even the guys coming through doing yard work, their vehicles are very, very loud too. I mean, so everybody else had said it, Ray said it, he knows how to do it. Take it down to 25 miles an hour and slowly take it up to 35 and really enforce it. I thank you for your time.
Next, we have Selena Alvarado. Selena, I have a question for you. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Is Jason speaking as well, or just, are you together? Okay.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say that I'm here on behalf of Angel Heart Health Services. I just wanted to explain the services that we provide, which are just counseling, peer support services, and skills training and development. And that's for general mental health as well as substance abuse. So it's not just for substance. It's for people with general mental health. It's open to anybody. So it's really a passionate job, and we care for our clients. We're here to help everyone in recovery and just to get back and even learn the skills to be able to function in their day-to-day. We provide counseling for individuals, marriage, just, mentoring, just to help our clients, again, learn how to function in a day-to-day and come back into the community. We opened this meeting with a prayer. I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. We opened this meeting with a prayer, and it was basically, it kind of made me think about that when I wanted to talk about the services that we provide. Everybody should be given a second chance, and also to live a life that we all deserve. We make mistakes. We are not perfect, but when you realize, the things that you want to fix in your life, you need help, and we're here to help as not just a company, but as a community. And we just, we want to be able to help our clients and our community to be able to provide those resources and the services to them. Also, go ahead, sorry.
Hi, my name is Jason Carthen. I'm actually one of the brokers that were on that deal, helped the transaction, helping them acquire the property. I did do some extensive research prior to selling them the property. I was not prepared for this meeting. I came down here to advocate for my client, and I'm willing to go as far as I have to make sure that their money is not wasted. They have spent an ungodly amount of money getting the property ready, for which you see sitting right here. These are Native American children, okay? I have adopted all 5 of these children. As you can see, it is late. I live in Chandler. I've driven all the way over here for this meeting. They're supposed to be in bed, but yet I'm standing here before you guys listening to the nonsense about things that a lot of people have no understanding, have no background in, right? And I understand everyone has to have a voice, everyone has an opinion. The services upon which they provide are for children like which you see sitting right here. And these services are needed.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to, I'm sorry.
I just didn't know if you were 2 separate speakers or not, because we did the 3 minutes, so.
Okay, I put my name down. I don't know how this stuff goes. So if I needed to put a separate sheet, I would have gladly have filled out one. I actually also have been a formal resident here of owning a business here in Fountain Hills. So, thank you.
That's it for public comment.
Thank you all. Our next item is our consent agenda. Could I get a motion, please? Oh, yes, sir?
Madam Mayor, I would like to pull off one item here.
Which one
And
is
that would be D, 8D.
8D? Okay. That will become the first regular agenda item. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda A, B, and C?
I make a motion.
Second. Thank you. Roll call, please. Sorry, I know you're scrambling over there.
Councilmember Toth.
Aye.
Councilmember Grzybowski.
Aye.
Councilmember Fidel. Councilmember Kalavianakis.
Aye.
Councilmember Skillicorn. Vice Mayor McMahon. Mayor Dickey.
Aye.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the first item will be the consideration of the Community Development Block Grant Program with Maricopa County. Looks like David is taking this. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, I'm taking this with very little knowledge of the program. I did do some research on it before the meeting. The original agreement was signed back in 2017. That is an IGA with Maricopa County to participate in the CDBG program, specifically the Urban Counties program. From what I can tell from the agreement, as well as information from Maricopa County's website, the program is available. CDBG is not something that we had qualified as a town to apply for directly to the federal program. So through Maricopa County, we would be able to apply for funds. However, in the application packet that Maricopa County has, I cannot locate our census tract as an eligible applicant, I guess. This current year, there is $1.5 million that was up for award. Other than just some anecdotal evidence, I guess. During the pandemic, there were some town residents that did benefit from either rent assistance or utility assistance. And that's about all I know. Maybe I can
Thank you,
ask
Aaron. I think Aaron has maybe something to add.
I'll bail you out, that's okay. Mayor and council, I'm no CDBG expert, but I do know from our experience with other communities, being involved in the program and the cooperative agreement with Maricopa County is necessary to be eligible in the first place to receive any funding. CDBG programs can go towards a variety of initiatives. One of the things that the other municipalities that I represent, which happens to have an eligible population, they're an eligible census tract, is they use it for demolition, rehabilitation of unsafe, dilapidated structures. It can be used for the certain economic and job creation and job retention activities. Other than that, I know it has a variety of uses. I think the idea, at least if I can cast my mind back to when we kind of first entered into this, was should their eligibility become available to us, we'd be in a spot to receive that funding. It's not so much that any funding will be forthcoming right now. We just kind of need to stay on top of our eligibility.
I'll go to Councilwoman, but I wanted to ask why you pulled it off. Did you have a specific question about it?
Sure, Madam Mayor. When I first saw that, I was just a little concerned. I read it again. I actually read through the agreement word for word, and there's some components in there that seem attractive, but there's nothing concrete. It's kind of like we hope to become eligible or something. So there isn't anything concrete to it, and I just I see what has happened in Maricopa County since this program has become, and these issues have got worse and worse and worse. And I really want to, I'm sure the board's going to accept this tonight, but I want to signal to MAG and the other people involved that what they're doing is not working, and this placating this is just not working, and we need to have a different steps and real solutions where people get help instead of focusing on housing. It's a mental health crisis, not housing crisis. And I think that the longer we continue doing this, it's going to get worse and worse. And I just see the results over the past 20 years here.
I had two main questions, and I think you technically already answered one of them, but I'm going to make you repeat it anyway. So Fountain Hills, have we received any money since joining this program as a town?
The town of Fountain Hills is not, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. If we were to receive money, how much would that be? Or is that even, am I misunderstanding the program entirely?
So from what I was able to find, there was 1.5 million available for this year to be applied for.
And that's total, not just for us?
For all of the participating communities, correct.
Okay. I forgot my second question. Sorry. I did want to say, though, Alan, something that you said really stuck. I'm saying this through the mayor. Sorry, Mayor. I've appreciated something that you said, that Alan said, that this is a mental health crisis, not necessarily a housing crisis. I do agree with that. Reading through this, I didn't expect it to be, I didn't know that this would be pulled off the consent agenda, but reading through it closer, I do kind of wonder, is there, oh, that's my second question. Is there any cost to us joining this? No. What exactly, so if we were to approve this, what exactly happens from there?
It's good for another 3 years, and I don't know if anything happens.
We just sign the paper, or?
Yeah, Mayor and Councilmember Toth, David's essentially correct that we enter into the agreement, and to the extent Fountain Hills ever does, if there's a grant program for which we become eligible, we could take that to the council and seek approval for application to that grant program.
So in the moment that we become eligible, could we just sign the paper and send it to them?
No, it would,
okay.
Just like any grant that we apply for, we typically, unless there's like an emergency basis, which we've done once or twice in the past, we come to council for approval to submit those applications.
Okay. And how many members are there in this program
Oh, gosh.
to share that 1.5?
I don't personally know. I know it's.
I'll try and Google it.
Okay, it's many of the local governments around the valley. Yeah.
Just to clarify, and I don't know, so any city with populations under 50,000 are not eligible directly. So you have to come under this type of IGA in order to be eligible. So by definition, a bunch of small cities or towns would come under this type of an IGA, and then metropolitans over that are eligible directly. So sort of Maricopa County serves as the distribution point for those of us that don't meet that population size.
Got it. Okay. I have a follow-up question. I'm so sorry. I promise I'll give it up soon. You had mentioned that you weren't able to find something that showed us as eligible under that. Does that mean they're not doing their part of this agreement?
No, it just
Okay.
means that our population and the our demographics don't fit.
Right, so what Rachel's explaining is that signing this agreement, right, would make us eligible to apply because we've signed this agreement for the CDBG. But you had mentioned that the form right now is not allowing you to apply. I'm sorry, I'm really trying to follow.
Yeah, as far as their application, it lists out on the table all of the census tracts and what the demographics are, and then basically we could apply, but I don't think it would go very far, because there's a lot of communities, a lot of different census tracts that are a lot more in need of that help than we would be. That's the
Okay,
way
I understand.
look at it, and that's
But we do have the ability to apply. That's where I misunderstood you. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, I too was a little confused that this appeared on the consent agenda. There seems to just be a lot of, you're going to commit to this, commit to that, commit to this, we're going to execute that. And it doesn't seem like there's any idea of what we're committing ourselves to now. I think, unless I misheard, that some of these funds would be direct payable to the people of Fountain Hills. Okay, so I found out that tonight. I also assume that we're going to get some of the money. Do we have a list of the uses for that money? That's what I'd be interested in. I didn't see that in the packet, and just in case I missed it. But there's a knee-jerk reaction. It's free money, so let's just take it. But we have to be careful what these funds are going to be used for, because we don't want them to be used for purposes that we don't agree with.
Well, I think, just to kind of come in here, there was a time that we weren't members, and Grady found out that by being a member, we could recommend residents to contact them for help. So we became, I don't know how long ago, but became a member, 2017 or something. And then during COVID, for example, when, everybody needed, like the businesses or the people hadn't gotten their rent checks yet or that kind of thing, we were able to say we belonged to this. I admit I didn't follow up, but that was, my understanding was that it's something we can belong to with no cost, no obligation as a town, but it made us part of something where we could recommend a resource for individuals. And I think there was some senior services level in there too. But I wasn't prepared for it to not be on consent either, so I apologize if I'm not as prepared.
Mayor, let me add, I think this just gets us ready so if people qualify, then we're in the program and then they can apply for it. Is that right?
As far as I understand from what I'm hearing tonight.
That's the bottom line, yes, Mayor and Councilman.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Mayor. And I'm assuming this would be applicable for housing then, like maybe Section 8 housing or affordable housing? Is that one of the programs that are covered on the auspices of this program?
I'm not prepared. I'm not exactly sure what programs other than the ones that have been.
No, typically what you have with CDBG is it services individuals who fall within moderate income to lower income brackets. It's not for construction of new housing. In fact, that's specifically on the HUD website. It's not for construction of new housing. It can be used for purposes of, like I was saying earlier, demolishing dilapidated buildings or for renovating buildings that qualify. But construction of new buildings and new housing, that's a whole separate deal.
So basically what this is agreeing to partner up with them so that our residents who are in need have access to funds so that they can be helped out. And I understand what Mayor Dickey said, and I recall that some of our residents during COVID did apply and get assistance. So if we don't do this, then we're not helping out residents who might fall through the cracks, because not everybody is wealthy in this community. So it just, like Jerry said, it gives them, it enables us to give them access to funds that they hopefully would be able to utilize to help them out. And if we don't do this, they don't have that avenue.
Ms. Mayor, just to address one of the Vice Mayor's concerns, would we be giving this money out, or would the program, because she said we would be giving the money out, and I just want to clarify that. Is this going to be another administrative deal where we're going to have to assign human resources to I'm just going with what the Vice Mayor said. I just would like that fleshed out a little bit.
So the town is the one that administers the program. If in the event that there is a grant that ever comes along, right, the town is the one that administers the program. So if an individual, a nonprofit, or whoever, whatever the case may be, wants to apply for that, because Maricopa County is the distributing arm. It's just like when CARES or whatever the other acts were during COVID era, those came down and were distributed through the county, and then those assistance grants were further distributed from the town. It operates the same exact way.
And just to be more confusing, I think when the COVID thing was happening, somehow we partnered up with Tempe, or there was some other city that we sent them to.
Yeah, and I was more talking about actual, like, what was the first one other than CARES? I can't remember what the first act was, but then there was subsequently FAIRS. Yeah, ARPA, thank you. There was ARPA and then there was CARES. And so I was referencing more of those, Mayor, but yeah, there were some special odd things that happened during COVID that are separate processes than what is established here.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for this, please?
Move to adopt Resolution 2023-10.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Grzybowski.
Aye.
Councilmember Friedel. Aye. Councilmember Kalavianakis.
Nay.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
No.
Councilmember Toth.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McMahon. Mayor Dickey.
Aye.
6-2, it passes.
Five to two.
5 to 2. I had
We
another
grew.
council member.
Thank you. I think, Justin, you're up for the next 2 items, correct?
Madam Mayor, council members, oftentimes we recognize the employees and the staff that provide services to us, and this is an opportunity for not only the town manager but myself to do so. Our facility staff over the last several years has made incredible discoveries about our facilities that we simply were not aware of, including the challenges we faced with our HVAC system. During that due diligence period, it was discovered, and I'm not going to mention a vendor here, that the company that had been providing services over multiple years had become complacent and basically just changed filters. As a result of that, this talented team in facilities began to dig deeper into our HVAC system. We began to search for a vendor, a contractor with some reputation, speak to other municipal governments. This is a culmination of that. We reached out to this individual through the cooperative use and entered into a lower threshold dollar agreement and allowed them to come out so we could watch them do some assessments of our facilities. They came back with an incredible list. We did a little back checking, spent that money, moved it up a little bit more. As a result of all of this activity, we're now convinced that this firm is best suited for the town for the next several years based on their performance and being able to back check those performances through the more efficiently operating facilities that are not only the town hall, the library, but also the community centers. And most people are not aware of this, but we have 3 additional buildings down at the street department that also require maintenance and service. With that, agreement to this contract will cover the rest of this fiscal year with a little bit of allowance in it, and also next fiscal year. And then obviously we would come back to you for an amendment at the end of, or before the end of that time frame, and ask you to consider an additional amendment to this or possibly a new contract depending on the underlying agreement from the issuing agency. With that, if you have any questions that I might be able to answer, I would be glad to do so.
Madam Mayor, Director, did this go out to bid?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And how many bids did it come in?
The underlying agreement agency received 3 proposals for this work.
Okay. And you corresponded and you thought this was the best one?
Council member, I did not directly, our facilities supervisor did, with the underlying agreement and some of their other customers on the cooperative use list.
Great. Well, thank you very much to everyone. The fact that it went out to bid is something that reassures me that we're getting the best deal for our money, and it sounds like we're in very capable hands. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, yes.
Move to approve amendment number 3 to Cooperative Services Agreement 2022-062 with Mesa Energy Systems for HVAC maintenance and repair in the amount of $100,000. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Friedel. Aye. Councilmember Calavianakis.
Aye.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
Aye.
Councilmember Toth.
Aye.
Councilmember Grzybowski.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McMahon. Aye. Mayor Dickey.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Passes unanimously.
Do we have any more speaker cards anywhere? Because I
No,
keep forgetting
Mayor,
to
I do
ask.
not.
Thank you. So the next item is Justin again, and I guess there's no speaker cards.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next one is actually for traffic signal maintenance. Most people that live here and drive through don't actually realize that we have a limited number of traffic signals. We actually have 13 traffic signals. Some of them were inherited from Maricopa County, and when the town was very young and just starting out, The city of Scottsdale actually provided maintenance for our traffic signals until the staffing levels could be brought up. Even when the staffing levels were at optimum, and let me be clear, that was one person, the city of Scottsdale provided backup to that individual. It became increasingly difficult to secure that person again, but even more challenging because there are 2 neighboring municipal governments that agreed to provide aid or services to back up our traffic signal technician. One of them, the city of Scottsdale, the other one, the town or the city of Mesa. When each of them became overwhelmed themselves and were unable to fill their own positions, the town contracted with Phoenix Highway. They eventually were unable to meet that obligation. Before we knew it, our only signal technician was unwell and would be retiring before very long. We initially had a contract agreement that was short and for a dollar threshold under $50,000 that we used to secure this, and then came back to the previous mayor and council and got a new contract to have our traffic signal maintenance addressed. That contract reached its term limit. The town of Fountain Hills, through their procurement officer, Rob Durham, released a request for proposals. It is attached to the staff report for you to read if you'd like to. We were delighted that we got at least one, and it also happened to be the one proposal from the vendor that has been providing support to the town for the last 7 years. We're here tonight to ask you to consider approval for this agreement moving forward for the next 5 years. It's 1+4 agreements in regards to renewal. We believe that we have adequate funding based on past performances and challenges. We also believe that based on our ability to recover funds from crashes in regards to traffic signal pole damage and controller damage, that there won't be an increase for services related to that. With that, if you have any questions I might be able to answer, I'll be glad to do so.
I actually do.
Sorry, do you have a question?
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Mayor. I was just wondering, is there any way that we could just bring this in-house and just put this under the Public Works Department?
Madam Mayor, Council Member, that is an excellent question. The challenge with that is it takes more than one person and the equipment necessary to do so. In the past, when we reviewed those options, just to replace the vehicle was approximately $170,000. To secure an International Municipal Signal Association certified technician is a relatively high-paying job and also highly sought after because of the unique skill set there. So securing 2 of them proved to be all but impossible because of the job description and the way it was written, and also the offers from the surrounding communities, which were substantially higher, and then the ability to have 1 or more persons to back that individual up. Now, keep in mind, to be fair, traffic signals are not a full-time position here, so that individual would also be asked to perform other duties as assigned. That last little part right there, more often than not, excludes several talented individuals. They don't necessarily want to be out putting up signs or digging ditches, or more importantly, be out with myself and other staff at midnight cleaning dirt and trees off of the roads. So it's a little bit challenging.
Okay, yeah, thank you for your very thoughtful answer. I appreciate that. I'm going to approve this tonight, and I guess that gives us 5 years, but I think you'll probably be here 5 years from now, and maybe in that year 4, we can start looking to bring this in-house, because I'd love to do that and just have them a Fountain Hills employee, and if that would be possible, that would be a good thing for me. But anyway, thank you.
You're welcome.
If there's no further questions, I was going to make a motion to approve. So I'd just like to make a motion to approve 9B, the professional services agreement with Power Tech Contracting LLC.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Calavianakis.
Aye.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
Aye.
Councilmember Toth.
Aye.
Councilmember Grisbowski.
Aye.
Councilmember Fidel.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McMahon. Mayor Dickey.
Aye. If we had all roundabouts, we wouldn't even need this, so.
That's true.
Our next item is about the legislative bulletin. We'd solve the intersection problem there, too. Anyway, so there's been a lot going on. Does anybody have anything that they want to, I know that Sharon, you were on the call, and others. Did you want to go in any more of that? I could talk real fast if you want. You're much better at that. Okay, and, Mr.
If you wanted an update, Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
that Prop 400 bill did pass committee yesterday. So,
It was a different mix of voters this time. Yeah, so just real quick, the food tax elimination bill was vetoed and seemingly staying vetoed. The rental tax elimination bill was vetoed, but it's back into a different bill now, 1131. Again, it's costing cities and towns $230 million statewide, and it will cost Fountain Hills about $525,000 a year. So we've been contacting the governor's office if things are getting that far. I know Brenda won't like this one, but political signs, 1025, seeks to limit the area that municipalities can set aside for to have political sign-free zones. In 2011, the state mandated that cities have to allow political signs in the rights-of-way during the campaign seasons, but allowed them to carve out political sign-free zones. Senator Kavanaugh stated at the hearing that Fountain Hills had gamed the system and that the scenic designation was a scam, but the political sign-free zones in Fountain Hills were created pretty much in 2012, I think, right after the bill passed. And Mayor Kavanaugh, I was on the council, we all voted, we all supported it unanimously. So, and then in the meantime, with the Supreme Court ruling, it almost seems like that bill has to be that statute needs to be re-looked at. But anyway, I'm against it, but I like our political sign-free zones the way they are. And then we've been talking a lot about zoning, and we did ask the governor for a veto of the home business by right bill, which is 1162. It did pass with support from our legislators. It would allow businesses with certain restrictions to operate out of residential homes. But given that the bill prohibits municipalities from requiring business licenses, the regulations, there are not that many, but the few regulations in place would be difficult to enforce because you wouldn't necessarily know where the businesses were. We've talked a lot about neighborhoods being changed by state laws, that by right zoning, which is the 3 separate bills now that remove local decision-making, diminish kind of the private property rights of people that own their property now, elevates the property rights of those investors and others that don't necessarily have attachments to our community. So we did send in, because that one is on her desk. So I think she has today or tomorrow to sign, to veto it. So hopefully that'll happen. And, oh gosh, this is just the Prop 400 bill, so you said it passed, right? Yeah.
committee. But Madam Mayor, there is a very important update that I forgot to mention, is yesterday the chicken bill made it out of committee. So that would actually, the way it's worded, it's funny, but it would effectively allow chickens not to be prohibited. I think it's actually below half an acre. But it could be a cow amendment on that, so.
I thought that was funny that it was a below thing. But it's so funny, when I very first got on the council, that was one of the first questions someone asked me. He said, could you make it so we can have chickens?
I haven't asked that question in town. And I don't want to reveal any information, but I would suspect there's a few scofflaws out there.
Yeah, I think I've heard some of them. Okay, so there we are with that. The next item is our discussion direction to the town manager. We heard some stuff tonight. Jerry?
I'm wondering if we could take a look at our traffic safety committee with the uptick in crime in this town. I'm wondering if we can expand the scope and the mission of that committee, and I'd like to see if we could put that on a future agenda item to talk about. That's the first request that I have. If we could.
I would second that motion.
Okay, so, and that could expand into anything else like, you mean like public safety?
Like the issues with crime prevention, what can we do as a town to help in those areas? I think the Traffic Safety Committee has done a lot of stuff and has probably come full circle. You know, we've got the blinking stoplights, stop signs, crosswalks, lowered speed limits, sidewalk infill where needed, and the traffic safety corridors. I'd like to see that expanded to help with dealing with this crime, this uptick in crime. So maybe it's more traffic safety and town safety committee type of approach. And then the second thing that I have on my list is I was at the school board meeting last night, and they talked about selling the Four Peaks property. I'd like to get that on a future agenda item to discuss as to whether the town would have any interest and what the pros and cons might be to doing something like that, and taking a look at that and seeing if it's a fit for us. We have an extensive amount of land around that building up there right now, so maybe there's some interest on the town's behalf, but I'd like to have that out as an item to discuss.
If a second is needed, I would second it.
You don't need to do that. You can just ask me too sometimes. But again, something like that, I mean, I don't know about next or even the other one, you know, depending on how much information we can get. And plus, you know, with the budget and everything, our agendas are like,
Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they have to put it on.
They have to have
it
that on the ballot. Yeah.
And they have to get the permission in November, and then after that, and that's another thing that they would have to do with a vote, so we got time.
And then one last thing is I know we're working on 5G. I just don't know where we are on that. Is that something we have on a future agenda coming up, or?
Good question. I'll follow up with our consultant about where he's at with our code review. So I hope to be able to get something to the council before the summer, before we recess for summer.
And can I ask for a clarification? Somebody had asked before if while we're reworking that ordinance, there is a moratorium on any applications that come through. Can you clarify that for the record? Is that such a thing, or are we all wet with that?
So I'd love to pull up the email that I drafted, because that said it better than I'll be able to say it here in person. But the sum and substance of that is that although moratoria are not expressly prohibited under federal and state law, the federal regulators, and actually by default our state as well, have said that moratoria don't toll the shot clocks that we have to comply with for approving wireless facilities. So could you adopt a moratoria? Theoretically, yes. Would it have any practical effect? No, because federal law preempts any moratoria that we adopt. Did that succinctly enough answer the question, Councilmember? Okay.
That's all I have. No. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, on the future addenda business, I would like to investigate putting an ordinance to prevent and or regulate panhandling, specifically aggressive panhandling. Although some interactions are passive, panhandlers sometimes become aggressive by soliciting in a coercive or threatening manner. Panhandling is viewed as an indication of social deterioration that can lead to more crime. So I'd like for our council to visit that. Secondly, I'd like to investigate an ordinance to prevent homeless encampments and to prevent camping on right-of-ways. I think that's bad for property values. I don't think it's a huge problem right now, but I think we should be proactive rather than reactive and be ready for that. Lastly, I'd like to place on the next future agenda the reconsideration of the new Fountain Hills Town logo that was first discussed at the February 22nd council retreat. That's all.
Thank you. The first two are fine. The logo one, you need support for that one, I think. I'd like to hear if anybody would like to revisit that. I mean, we spent the money already. Well, I don't want to debate it, but.
I would second that. Oh, there's a third.
May I have a third?
I'll be the third.
So you want to do the logo again? Yep. Revisit it.
No discussion.
It's done. Okay. I wanted to mention that so this was the council discussion direction to town manager item. So on that one, I would like to mention the folks that spoke about Saguaro and El Lago intersection, which is something that we have already put on our next agenda for the safety committee, public traffic and pedestrian safety committee. And so we will be following up with that, and of course, Captain Kratzer's on that committee, so we'll talk about the speeding and such, but you can see the dilemma when someone is asking us to stop doing so much traffic. So, these are things that we have to continue to balance. So we already did the future agenda items, so.
Oh, Madam Mayor, there's one thing I want to add to a future agenda, and that is discussion on the street, not so much panhandling, but solicitation ordinance or regulation. Yeah.
Well,
I know we
those two
talked
are-
about it during the retreat, but I do want to bring it up as a formal item.
That's fine. I was fine with both of those. I was just trying to get rid of the logo one. All right. Any other comments? We are adjourned. Thank you.